throughout the afternoon because we know it can be hard to sit in one place for too long. So if you need to step away at any point, you'll be able to go back to the recording and catch up on anything that you may have missed. I'm also going to encourage you to keep some notes for yourself throughout the day. We anticipate that you may want to speak further with some of the people that you meet or some of the topics that you hear about, and you'll have a lot of future opportunities to do that. And in order for us to best help you, it's great if you just maybe are able to take down a note for yourself on what you might like to follow up on further. And before we get into our sort of live presentation, talking to all sorts of members of our community, we're going to show you a quick 5-minute video that I think will introduce you to some of the key pillars of Albany Law School and sort of set our tone for the afternoon. So my colleague Ben is going to cue up the video for us. Enjoy.
The key driver for me in deciding to go to law school was my curiosity to understand exactly what makes America work.
I came in here saying, I want to be a prosecutor, and it's very exciting. So yeah, it's come full circle.
I've learned in life you have no idea where life is going to take you. And I'm happy with the decisions I've made. I'm happy with where I've ended up here at Albany Law.
Independence means to a student that they get the best, most current education that we can dream of. Taking advantage of the innovations in our curriculum allows a student to become a lawyer for the future, to become a professional who's able to address and solve problems. When we talk about impact in this campaign, we're talking about impact that has always been true, which is the way that Albany Law School impacts our community.
The military tradition of my family goes back towards my grandfather. He served during World War II, my father during Vietnam, and then myself during the Global War on Terror. I feel it's a uniquely American thing to do, is to serve, putting others before yourself. In the military, we're profession of arms. I wanted to find another career, not just a job, another career that you were a profession. It was, something that you'd have to strive for, something you'd have to work hard for, something you'd want. And that's also how I saw a career as an attorney. Like I said, I've always found criminal law very interesting. I'm currently a military police officer, but I feel that I may be more defense-oriented. Also, I think I'm empathetic towards people, too. That's probably why I like the defense perspective. The scholarship and the additional financial benefits I've received from Albany Law, it has been a huge benefit for me and my family. I remember my first class, we did the reading, didn't really understand it, and then from day one, the professor was asking questions, and you have to answer them and figure it out, and make it happen. So a lot of similarities between law school and the military, which is another reason why I enjoy it.
Well, we need money to support innovations because innovation is not easy. We take some of the challenges and barriers to innovation, and we eliminate them because of our independence and because of our agility.
I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. It just kind of made sense to me then that, I should probably join the science track, and it was a cool thing to do. That was what I eventually ended up doing. I studied pharmacy. It was good to know that I was actually helping people to save lives. When I joined extracurricular activities and keep records, community development, that was when I decided to think of law. I've always thought about, kind of attacking the healthcare side of things if I ever go into litigation, or, focusing on corporations that work in the healthcare area. I'm happy to be able to actually, combine everything and use it all. The greatest thing about Albany Law is the professors. I feel very grateful to a lot of people that have helped me grow from the very first day.
Albany Law has an impact on every student. It changes lives.
So growing up as a little girl in Brooklyn in a traditional Hispanic household family was everything, and I was always with my family. My uncles specifically were involved in law enforcement with the NYPD. Having my uncles that I could look up to and pepper with questions and have them indulge me and explain how their job works and how prosecutors work was very important. Kind of set me on this path to Albany Law School. But the Albany Law Clinic and Justice Center has a few clinics, so the Community Development Clinic, the Immigration Law Clinic, the Domestic Violence Prosecution Hybrid, the Family Litigation Clinic. And just to do that as a law student, it's incredible. I've been next to a professor grading papers who You know, when she sees that her student has gotten it, she goes, yes, and like startles everyone in the room. But she's that invested in her students learning and knowing what's going on. After graduation, I'll be a prosecutor at the District Attorney's Office of Kings County. I am incredibly excited and honored, and I'll be home. I'll be a prosecutor at home. The importance of the donors giving back, you know, it enhances our experience as students, and you know, I've seen and felt the impact that has. So, you know, I hope to be one of those alumni that gives back in whatever way I can. It's so important. I think I'm incredibly lucky to be able to, as an adult, do the one thing I always said I wanted to do as a child. I'm so grateful that, you know, I was able to come here to Albany Law School and make that dream real.
The folks who invest in Albany Law School are investing in all of our students, and they're investing in our future. And we couldn't do this without them.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for sharing that with us. I hope that sort of helped get you a little flavor of what you can anticipate at Albany Law School. I know, even though I've seen it multiple times now, it still always gets me excited for all of our wonderful alums and all the things they're getting into. So today we're here for you. This is a very exciting time for you and for us. These Accepted Students Days are always some of our favorite days of the year. And just because we're virtually delivering that now, doesn't make that any less true. So today, we acknowledge your hard work and accomplishments that have led you here. We're going to give you a virtual round of applause. Congratulations to everybody on your acceptance. We're excited to have you here. I want to thank you for the confidence that you have shown in us by submitting your application. And today, you will hopefully begin to see why that confidence is well placed. This is a great time for you to begin to identify ways that we can help you achieve your individual goals, whether those are some that you've openly shared with us during the application process, or those that you have yet to realize. We're going to help get you there. Today and in the coming weeks, you'll have a chance to be introduced to a broad cross-section of our Albany Law family, your Albany Law family now, and we will highlight for you all of the great resources and opportunities available to you here and help give you a better sense of what to expect as you transition into your legal career. There is a lot to get to, so I'm now going to hand it off to arguably the best person to welcome you today. She is not only an alumna of Albany Law School, but she's our extremely capable and supportive leader, President and Dean Alicia Willett. Hi, Dean Willett.
Hi, everybody. And I'm going to apologize. I'm having some audio difficulties, so I'm speaking to you from my phone. Are you hearing me? Yep.
You're clear. Okay. You're great.
Good. So welcome everybody. It's nice to see you. I actually see some students who have met already. It's great to see all of you and to see some new faces as well. I want to join Amy in just congratulating you for getting to this moment. We know how much work it takes to get to be admitted to law school and to be admitted to Albany Law School, particularly in this cycle, which has been especially competitive. And we're thrilled to welcome you to the Albany Law School community. And we just congratulate you on all the work that it took to get here. And we can't wait to take the next step together with you. Of course, we wish we were welcoming you in person. We're getting very close to being able to do that. And we promise you, a nice reception in our beautiful, beautiful facility in our foyers, where we're giving you fancy lunch and a nice drink at the end, and just being able to do what we do best, which is just be part of your community. We are welcoming folks onto campus for tours. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can do that. And we hope that later in the summer, we'll be able to do some kind of in-person gathering. As I said, we're getting very, very close. But we are very much planning on welcoming you here in person in the fall. And I'll address a little of that later and take your questions on that if you have any questions. But all signs are go for a full return to busy classrooms and hallways and conversations with each other out in our courtyard and in our little study spaces. And so we can't wait for that to happen. So I want to start by saying that we're here today to help you make decisions about what's best for you with law school, or for those of you who have made your decision to get to know some of the folks that are now part of your community. And we're going to spend a lot of time, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about community, because it really is our defining feature as a law school. Our community, every member of our community is committed to your success. We will give you the chance to get to know our community today, our programs, our people, our opportunities, and our network. And we hope that you understand that as a student and later a graduate of Albany Law School, we will remain committed to your success, giving you the tools and the opportunities and support that you need to launch a fabulous career. As you may know, Albany Law School is the oldest independent law school in the country. And that means we have a lot of history and a lot of pride and a lot of pride points. We are a proud community that has graduated 2 Supreme Court justices, a US president, governors, mayors, hundreds and hundreds of judges and prosecutors and public interest heroes. We've graduated law firm partners and global leaders in industry and health, innovation, finance, so much more. And those leaders reach back constantly to our students, even to our applicants, mentoring them, hiring them, doing mock interviews, coaching report teams, making sure that they're happy in their jobs and working as people make job changes. Albany Law loyalty is strong, and our alumni are an integral part of our community. And so you'll hear from some of them at the end of the day. You'll also hear from some of our incredible faculty. We have national experts, global experts, who are also committed teachers and really nice people, a little quirky, you'll see that, but that's what makes it fun. These are some of the smartest people on the planet who are so dedicated to helping you learn the law and learn how to navigate. And learning the law, you'll learn is really about learning how to think and how to access information and use information and analyze and critically think about the problems that we face. If it was real easy, right, we wouldn't need lawyers. We could just put it in a computer and Google the answer and figure it out. But life's complicated and the law is complicated, and your faculty are going to work with you as you develop those skills and knowledge so that you're able to really put to work your law degree. And you will find that our faculty are so committed to student success. They're here late at night. They'll give you some of them will give you their home phone numbers, their cell phone. No one uses that anymore, right? Their cell phone numbers. They make phone calls. If we have a student who wants a job and it's a good fit, we will be making phone calls to support you. This is a faculty that cares and that's going to get to know you and support you. We have an unbelievable staff, and we got some of the folks from our admissions office that are in that group, and they're here with you today. Laura and Persia and Katrina. I'm not sure who else is there. Those who I'm seeing, but the whole, all of them. You've gotten a little taste by working with them of how great our staff are and how much they care. They will literally give you the jacket off their back if you need it. I've seen it happen. I'm not kidding. It's not an exaggeration. We just had our commencement ceremonies. We had 2 ceremonies in one day up at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center for the classes of, we did one for the class of 2021 and a separate ceremony for the class of 22. And I watched as our staff spent the day there with these graduates and how connected they were, and they're taking pictures with their families. And, everyone, every member, every employee of Albany Law School cares about our students, and you'll get to know them. And it's just this whole another layer of support. You'll also meet our students today, and our students are a special community. They're a group of people. They are, smart and intellectually curious and here because they bring so much to the table, and they also are nice people who care about one another and who care about each other and work together to help have a rich experience and a rich supportive law school life in a way that I think is very different from many law schools. So you'll get a sense of that as you talk to our students. As a community, Albany Law School provides unparalleled opportunities. All of these folks I've been talking about, our students, our staff, our faculty, our alumni come together and create opportunities. Some of them are right here on campus, and I am live from the dean's office here. Some of those things you'll hear about today include the Justice Center. So that's where it's a law firm, right, at the law school, where students working under the supervision of faculty serve real clients and learn by doing, right? They become, our students learn how to be lawyers and learn the skills of lawyering by serving actual clients. And it might be an immigrant who has a legal issue in their immigration law clinic, children or individuals facing family violence, and people having issues in the healthcare system in our health law clinic, small businesses or entrepreneurs in our community economic development clinic, or you might do the domestic violence hybrid clinic, in which you'll be working a special victims unit in a DA's office, but having your classroom experience right here at Albany Law School. You may be really interested in public service, and there's no better place to come to law school if you're interested in public service because of our Government Law Center. The Government Law Center leads impactful projects in all kinds of areas. This year, they've really focused on police reform and racial justice, rural law, and aging and disability law. But the projects change from time to time, but what the GLC is committed to doing, and you'll hear more about this when you talk to our faculty, is providing mentors and learning opportunities people who are actually in public service. It's a program unlike any other, where if you want to be in the heart of government, there's no better place than Albany, which is the capital of the state where where New York is where law happens. It's the leading edge of law, and we're the only law school here. So there are those opportunities with the Government Law Center, which lead to other opportunities off campus. Field placements, what you may think of as sort of internships, but our field placements have a faculty component, a faculty member who's going to be a part of your experience in the classroom that goes along with your field placement, but you can go out and work in a government agency, in a judicial clerkship, in a private firm. There's lots and lots of opportunities. We have more opportunities for internships than we do students to fill them. It's a nice problem for the law school to have, where we get calls from a judge saying, I wanted someone this semester, I didn't get anyone. Well, we're the only law school in town. You're not competing with all of the other schools. We have great opportunities that are student driven. We have dozens and dozens of clubs, affinity groups, scholarly groups, moot court programs, wellness and athletic programs, pro bono projects, everything from elder law to criminal law to art law, and you'll hear more about those. So I'm thrilled for you to get to know our community today and in the weeks ahead. And if it feels like a good fit for you, we hope you'll join us in the fall. We can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to meet you. And I know that our faculty and staff and our students feel the same way. We can't wait to see you grow and learn as a professional, and let us know the best way that we can support you and how we can lean on each other and grow together. You're in for a great ride, and law school is a life-altering experience, and you're really close to starting. So can't wait to just say ready, set, go, and bring you here and get down to work. I will just mention a few things about the fall, and I will be back for questions and answers toward the end of the session. But if anyone has anything pressing right now, I'm happy to answer that as well right now. But we are planning to be back in person for JD classes and our rich student life. We are dealing with a pandemic situation, as you all have been. So the rules change on us from time to time, but of late the rules have been changing to allow us to reopen. And so that is our plan. We expect that our classes will be meeting in classrooms, that students will be here with us. We do know that some people may have disability or health-related issues, or even COVID-related hardships that may require some kind of an accommodation. If you're in that situation, please reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Dean Queenan. I see that she's here, or Dean Mara, who you'll also see, and we'll give you the links for all of that. And we'll work with you. But it is our hope and our goal to have most everybody here on campus. Some of you may be wondering about things like whether you have to wear a mask or distance. As the guidance changes, we're gonna be able to get rid of some of those requirements. We are asking, we have added the COVID vaccine to our list of we always get require a number of vaccines, and that is one that we are asking. We've added to our list, so you'll need to provide proof of a vaccine. If you do need a religious or medical exemption for that, there's again a form that you can fill out, and we will work with you. But you will have 800 people in 2 small buildings, so we will all be together, and we need to keep each other safe, and this is the best way for us to do it. So with that, Ben, are there any questions that I've missed?
Just one. It's COVID related though. It's about tours for vaccination or tests needed for tours. I would imagine they fall under the same idea of what you were just describing. Need a vaccine or you need a negative test to go on a tour.
Yeah, so for now, that's what for all visitors to campus, you'll either need to show a vaccine or provide proof of a negative COVID test. Once the semester begins, then we are going to be, it will be the vaccine that we're looking for. But for tours, it can be one or the other, and you can bring your support people along to see our building and meet our folks. Anything else?
I'm just going to add quickly, building on that question, that if you're visiting, you do need to have that test off-site. That's not something that we can offer when you get here. You're going to have already had that. Just to clarify. All right.
That's it for the chat.
Okay, good.
It. I think that's
well,
it for
enjoy.
now. Okay. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. And I'm going to hand us over to our capable faculty. So for all of our guests, you're now going to get to meet just a sampling, a handful of the fantastic faculty that we have here at Albany Law School who are going to be such an integral part of your education. So I'm going to loosely moderate this part of the day, but really they're going to shine. So we have 4 faculty that I'm going to ask briefly to introduce themselves. So we have Professors Harrington, Hirakawa, Jim, and Ayers. And so I guess we can start with, I'll just go alphabetically. We'll go ahead with Professor Ayers if you want to start, and then you can each just introduce yourselves and we'll get started that way.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So my name is Ava Ayers. I'm a professor and also the director of the Government Law Center, which Dean Ouellette mentioned a minute ago. I'm extremely happy to meet you all. I teach courses mostly related to government, as well as legal ethics and civil procedure.
Thank you. And who's next up? How well do we know our alphabet? We'll go with Professor Harrington. Go ahead.
I still have to remember to unmute myself. a year later. It's amazing how that works. And yeah, I think alphabetically it is me. So if not, I apologize to Professor Hirakawa. So I'm Professor Harrington, also listed as Dr. Harrington. I am not a medical doctor. I am a PhD holder in law. I teach multiple international law courses, so international organizations, public international law, international business transactions, international human rights law, and the newly created Indigenous and Aboriginal law. And also, for those of you who are coming in as first years, one of your optional courses, which you'll hear much more about, on intergenerational and intragenerational equity. So welcome. This is also my alma mater for both my JD and my LLM. So welcome, and I hope that you can also join our LM family. Thank you.
Hirakawa, that means you're up.
Yeah, okay. So hello, everybody. Congratulations and welcome to the family. I have to admit that every time I hear the dean speak about Albany, I want to go back to law school, which is super fun for me. I teach the first year property course. My area of concentration is environmental law, land use, basically anything where you have to touch the dirt. And so that it's sort of these kinds of nature-based courses are all within my wheelhouse. In terms of, I think it might be worth mentioning, Albany does have this awesome legacy of getting our students ready to hit the ground running. We do a lot of problem-based learning where you sort of learn by doing, where you're given real-world problems, sometimes by scenario, sometimes real clients. And you have to face them and talk to them and learn how we talk to clients and how we represent their interests, how we sort of siphon through the narratives to figure out which laws would apply. And it's an awesome education. It's very engaging and it's very personal, both to you and the people that you're going to work with. And it's a lot of fun. And by all means, reach out if you don't get the answers that you want or looking for today. I think we're all easy to find. I'm real easy to find as well. So welcome.
Thank you. And Professor Jim.
Thank you. So I'm Louis Jim, and I also teach first year courses. Many of you, I assume, will have me for a class called Introduction to Lawyering next year. And so what does that mean? So I like to think of that course as mainly a course that teaches you how to communicate like a lawyer, because it does sound slightly different. It's the practical aspects about what you might be seeing in legal practice. We talk about that. And one thing I like to do in my course is to show how the other courses you're taking, property with Professor Hirakawa, tort, civil procedure, and contracts in the first semester, how they all really tie together, because sometimes it's hard to see that when you're taking each individual course. But I like to show how they all actually tie together, because the practice of law is very broad. It's never just one thing. It's probably closer to 20 different things at once. And I like to tie that all together for you. And unlike, say, other first year courses where you might be in a larger class of 50 to 60 people, in my class, there's only 20 to 25 of you. So we do get to know each other very well. I typically know my students very well, and we talk not just about first year, but really what they want to do after law school. So I'm hoping to have more of those conversations with you next year. Or not next year, I guess in a few months, isn't it?
Yeah, right. It's coming up quick. It always seems like it's so far away until it's right here in your face. So we appreciate that. So I really want to encourage all of our attendees, our accepted students today. You can enter your comments, questions, concerns in the chat, and we'll do our best to work them in. Of course, we're going to do our best to kind of tell you some things that we think you need to know or think you might be interested in. But what we're here to do today is really find out what you're truly, genuinely interested in. So please do participate. Let us know how we can best respond, and we'll do our best. But so while they're all getting their fingers warmed up in the chat, I wondered if you could each maybe take a minute to speak about just sort of generally how that faculty-student relationship evolves here at Albany Law. So from academic supporting and success in classes, but also that sort of mentorship and career support and development, brainstorming, all those things. So I know you all have unique perspectives and engage with your students closely. So I would like to hear anything on that sort of topic area of how closely our students and faculty work together. So any of you that would like to contribute, I'd like to hear from. Please.
So I'm happy to jump in on that if you'd like. So actually, to give you an idea of kind of how close we've become, I think especially during the pandemic with our students and how we've become really mutually supporting of each other. I just had a text from a student who became a new aunt and sent me photos. So I was very happy. If any of you know Lavinia, who just graduated, she became a new aunt today. So there you go. I know, I will tell her we're all very happy for her. But that I think is something that's very unusual to Albany Law School, and something that the pandemic has really brought out in a way that we knew was there, but just seeing it working through this real difficult period where none of us knew what was going to happen, but we all knew that despite that, we as teachers had to provide our students with an education, but more than that, we had to provide extra guidance and extra support. So I've seen, not only with myself, but also with many other faculty colleagues, really deep personal connections developing with students where we still keep in touch, where we offer guidance and support for careers, not just suggestions, but picking up the phone, emailing people. I do this frequently, many others do it as well, to try to help and provide a sense of kind of clarity as to what it really means to practice in the areas where you're interested. And if someone comes to me and says, I would like to practice in property law, I might send them over to Professor Hirakawa. I might send them over to someone else because it might not be my area, but we all are able to do that with each other in a way that I think a unique small faculty can do, where we might not otherwise be able to do it.
Yeah, so I'm going to just for a second talk about the Government Law Center, because we're a fairly unique operation. And I can talk more about it later, but basically the Government Law Center is a chance for students who are interested in government to get involved with real work where you're helping people in government understand the law better, understand how it applies to the work that they're doing. And you can either do that as an intern. So for example, on the police reform work that we've been doing over the last year, we have a team. It varied in size. People sort of came in and out as was convenient to them. 4 to 6 students who were working with, for example, the city of Albany to develop a plan for reforming its police department. And that meant going to meetings, figuring out what people needed, writing memos, talking to stakeholders. And for other municipalities all across the state, some of the same work, figuring out what do people need. We're not an advocacy organization. We do research and analysis using the legal skills that you'll be developing when you get here. So you have a chance to speak directly to people in government. We've also done some work at the state government level where we're talking to people who are working in the legislature about the bills that are pending, and what research would be helpful to people to understand the stakes, to understand the options, understand the law. And those students, I think, have gotten a really unique opportunity to see how enormous energy towards change gets converted into actual new laws, right? There's a very mysterious and perplexing process in between those two things. It's exciting, it's frustrating, it's rewarding, it forms very close bonds, you get to know people very well. And so we've gotten to work with folks on all of that. The other aspect of the GLC's program is what's called the GLC Fellowship, which I can talk more about later, but basically for students who think they might be interested in government, it's a 3-year mentorship program. You can join after your first year, you can leave after your first year. It's not a 3-year commitment, but it's designed so that folks who are interested in public service can, for the first year, have meetings where we do some skills building. We bring in some guest speakers to talk to folks. We have students reach out to individual mentors. And we generally help people explore their interest. For the second and third years, there's a couple of required courses, and there's what's called an experiential capstone, where you do work in an office that works on government or policy, and you come back to talk to your colleagues about it. The first year and second year students get to hear presentations from the third year students about what it's really like to work in a particular office. So by the time you get done with law school, you've actually gotten to know a whole lot of different government and policy offices quite well, because you've heard about them directly from students who know what it's really like there. There's lots of other ways we try to help people, but through those two programs, as a faculty member, I've gotten to know students really, really well, not just through the classroom, but also through being part of their work. And what's great is whether you're a fellow or not, whether you're an intern or not, we're a small faculty, we know each other really well. It's nice to see, the three colleagues who are here, for example, within the last year, at least one student has come to me just really joyful about the difference that each one of these three people has made in their lives, in ways that go beyond their teaching. They're inspiring people, and I think the students really benefit from getting to know them. So I'll stop there. I could talk about this for the rest of the hour, but I'll try not to.
Thank you. I'm sure we will get more questions about the sort of government law center, our centers and our clinics in general. So stay tuned for that. But any other, Professor Hirakawa or Jim, do you want to comment?
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so first, thank you. First, I think we need to thank Professor Ayers for his kind words for all of us, and that is true of Professor Ayers as well. She also inspires many of our students. So for me, my office is located where many of the first year classes are. So I tend to not only do I get to know my students, but I tend to get to know the first year class very well. And I'm happy to do that. You're all going to get to know your professors. You're going to take classes with them, and they're going to teach you the subjects that you need to learn to graduate, right, to be a lawyer. But the other side of law school is really the professional relationships you develop. And I think that is really the more interesting part and the more fun part to me. It's because that stuff will stay with you forever, developing those types of relationships. So I routinely, talk to students and advise students and develop relationships with students who I never had in class. Not as first year, or sometimes I'm not in elective courses. And I'm sure everyone on the panel has done the same. And that's the type of school it is. So feel free to, every professor is open to talking, whether you had them as a student or not, and maybe never will have them as a professor, or they may never have you as a student, but they're all open to talking. They're all open to helping all of you out. So I would say that doesn't happen at a lot of places, but hopefully there's obviously this past year we had very few, we didn't have as many people in the hallways as we used to, but next year we will, and my office will remain in the same place, and the first year classes will remain in the same place. So I expect many more people to come by, and I'm always happy to talk.
Yeah, I have a sort of a slightly different message for this idea of relationships while you're here with faculty and students. I think one thing to think about when you enter law school is what we're trying to do is get you to a level of competency, right? Where you're not thinking like a student anymore. And by that, I mean, waiting to be told what to do, right? As you go through your law school career, you're going to get all these fantastic tools that will solve problems through the rules of law. And at some point, you realize that you have confidence in wielding those tools. And if you don't know which tools are right, you'll go find out what they are. And it can be a pretty humbling experience, right? This transition from thinking like a student to thinking like a competent professional. But one of the things, or at least I think, is kind of special about the faculty here at Albany is how inclusive we are about the ways we get you there, right? Getting involved in projects that the professors are working on, co-authoring projects with them, putting together some presentation to go talk to a city council member, getting out in the community to see what's going on, where the injustices lie, and how to talk to people about that. Is one way that we get you there. And I think it shows a lot of confidence in our students and respect for what you have to offer. We're going to change you, right? We're going to take what you have to offer and turn you into a lawyer. But in the meantime, being able to reach out and just say to one of your faculty members, I want to do what you do. What are you working on? How do I get involved? And you're going to find a lot of open arms and open doors to these kinds of projects. And just by way of example, in the last couple of years, we've done presentations to towns and cities of different land use and environmental laws they should adopt. We petitioned Fish and Wildlife, the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service, to protect the American bumblebee. We've been getting in there and trying to see if we can get into some trouble, mix things up a little bit. And to do that, figuring out which tools we have from the law that we can use, where the leverage are, who needs to be protected. And these are all the kinds of things that you're going to learn by being very engaged here at the law school. I would recommend to every one of you. And Ben just posted our BPALS advocate news. Is really interesting and fun stuff. But the lesson I think here is, law school is an engaged and participatory process, right? If you get out of your first year law school, or God forbid, your third year law school, and your professors cannot name you from 1,000 feet away, or maybe that's pretty far, I suppose. But then you've failed yourself, right? Get engaged. Ask. All you got to do is ask. What can I do? I want to sue someone. Maybe not sue somebody, but I want to get involved and figure out how this process works. And you will find all of the people that you need to show you how law works, to test you, to allow you to make mistakes while you're still in law school as part of the learning process, right? And again, congratulations and welcome.
Amy, can I just jump in with one other comment to piggyback on that? Because it's, first of all, I love the bees, and congratulations on the bees, because it's a wonderful project. So just to say, in terms of what Professor Hirakawa was saying, over the course of the past year and being kind of home in the pandemic, because I do often travel a lot, I started a center. I started a research center. It's an international center. It's a center for global governance and emerging law. I couldn't have done that without my students. And I had several research assistants who I mentioned it to as a thing that I wanted to do, and just in passing, and they jumped right on it and became kind of the real core of it, and have maintained that ever since. I lost two of them. They graduated. It was very sad, and I tried my best to hold them back, but I couldn't fail them. So I had to let them go. Anyway, one is coming back, and there are many new spots available. But again, because they asked, because they volunteered to do this, and I've actually gotten, thank you, Ben, I have gotten international acclaim for my students from people throughout the world, from Europe, from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America, and the Middle East, basically everywhere except where there's a penguin. And I'm sure the penguins would love them too if they had the chance to meet them, but there are no law faculties there. But because these students showed themselves to be so proactive and ask, not only just engage in creating events and everything, but ask questions and just be really involved. So don't be afraid. We're not frightening, hopefully. We are very welcoming, and we do want your voices and we want your opinions. And just because you're coming in as a first year law student doesn't mean you don't have great contributions you can make for all of us. So, so please share those with us, please. And if you can find a way to involve the penguins, please tell me too, because that would be great.
Right.
Really.
That's great. Well, thank you all for that. I feel like I get sometimes to be in this unique perspective, because I not only get to know so many of these applicants on their way in through all of the things that they share with us, but I also get the routine questions, and I happen to know a little bit about where their anxieties might lie in terms of the coming on, right? So I think what you all just expressed about how engaging and how broad and diverse the ways that they can sort of approach this are, and that there are people there, not only just one person, but there are multiple people who can always support them in that. But we also have those folks who are like counting down the weeks to coming in, and they have a little bit more of the sort of the minutia, the technical questions, right, on how's this all going to look. So about that first year curriculum, what are my days going to look like? Is it Monday to Friday? We did have a question in the chat about, are there reading days built into the semester? Is that at finals time? So, and I know Professor Harrington, you did mention a little about this elective course. So I would invite you to speak a little bit about the curriculum. I'm not sure if you all feel great about that, but maybe Professor Jim, do you feel like you might want to start? Because I know that you're pretty up on the 1L curriculum.
Yeah, sure. So first, I mean, I can get the reading days question out of the way. Yes, there are reading days. Usually at least 2 between the last day of classes and then when your final start. Okay, so the answer is yes, right there. That takes care of, there are reading days. In terms of your, like, let's just go through the week as a 1L, right? You have 5 classes throughout the semester, and you might find that on certain days, you'll only have 1 class that meets, once a day, and then other days you might have the class that might be 3 times a day. They're spaced out though. You're divided into sections, and they're spaced out so that you will have time to prepare for each class, at least for varying degrees, and maybe depending on at certain times, what you might be doing. In my class, which is lawyering, where there might be more assignments due spaced out through the semester. And that's your typical week as a law student. But there are other activities that you do as a law student. There's different organizations, there's different clubs. Now, as a first-year law student, your priority in terms of school really should be your academics. Okay, but that's not to say that downtime is important. It is. It's important to your well-being, and I think it's actually important to learning. Okay, you need that time away. You need that time to reflect. That's your typical week as a law student. And as it gets closer towards the end of the semester, just like in college, it's going to get busier because there's more things due. Finals are approaching, final papers are approaching. But that, like, one thing I advise students is, if you need help or if you just want to talk to somebody, and what we talk, that very first question is, go speak to your professors. We're all willing to help. And sometimes, what I find, and I meet with students a lot about, doing their work assignments in other classes, is sometimes it's having a 5-minute conversation can help clarify something. And that 5 minutes now suddenly clarifies things for 4 different classes. That's the type of relationship you want with a professor, and that's the type of learning you want. And all it took was 5 minutes. You're going to be on campus a lot next year because we're going to be hopefully in person for most of it. And so take advantage of those opportunities. We have a lot of areas for students to meet. And hopefully we'll see what happens. You'll have many more of those informal social activities that you would typically see on a school campus. And I know there's other professors here that teach first-year classes as well, so I want to, I don't want to monopolize the time.
Thanks. Anyone else want to jump in on what the 1L curriculum might look or feel like? Any advice?
It may feel overwhelming, especially when you see it for the first week. It is not, and it is not meant to, to test your mental fortitude. I mean, it is meant to teach you, but not to scare you to death. So even if it does look overwhelming, just remember that we're not trying to be miserable to you, and that you can absolutely get through it. You got here, so you can totally get through it. And if you have a really bad day, if you think you sounded like you didn't have the right answer in class or whatever, every day at the end of the day is over and you move on to a new one. So if you feel like you had the worst day of your academic life and you should go hide in the corner, it's over, it's done, and tomorrow is a completely new day. So we will not judge you. Don't worry, please.
I love that advice. I think that's so important. And it's part of, for me, the first year is about learning the law, but it's also about learning to teach yourself the law, learning a new way of engaging with things you don't know. And it was a shock for me when I started law school to realize, as I eventually did, that my professors aren't there to tell me the law. It's different from a lot of courses where I took in undergrad. Not that I was just expected to regurgitate things. I was a major in English literature and Eastern religions, and there was plenty of independent thinking that we did. But in law school, your first year is a chance to figure out how you learn. There's going to be a lot of material. It's going to be unfamiliar. And the secret to the first year of law school is that that's what it's like to be a lawyer as well. We're not experts who walk around disgorging information that's somehow been jammed into our heads. We're people who know where to find answers, how to look for them, how to distill them, how to absorb them, and how to use them creatively. But I don't have a giant body of knowledge in my head that makes me an expert. What I have is self-knowledge about how to learn things, how to absorb things, sometimes how to pretend I've absorbed things. And in the first year, what I think all of our professors share is an understanding that we're teaching you to be experts, but that doesn't mean you're going to arrive and be an expert or arrive and be judged. When I got my first reading assignment, I thought there's obviously been some kind of terrible mistake here, right? Like this, I don't know what this is that I'm looking at. There were these large cases. What am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to absorb? First year is a chance to learn. And one of the most important things, I think, is to learn collaboratively, to learn to talk to other people, to learn to talk to your professors, to benefit from their perspective and understanding. Because you learn, if you're doing this right, that you can't really learn things altogether by yourself. You only understand things when you've heard other people's perspectives on them. And that's why we organize our classrooms as conversations a lot of the time, so that you can benefit from that. It feels different and strange. And the last thing I'll say is I strongly encourage you to be on the lookout for what it is that feels strange, what feels different from what you might have expected, because this actually I learned as an English lit major. When you read a poem, the thing you don't understand is often the key to it. And figuring out why you don't understand that thing, that one line that doesn't make sense, that doesn't meet your expectations. Law is like that too. Something about your first year will strike you real funny. Like, I thought lawyers were going to do this, but instead we're doing this. Pay attention to that. That's going to be the key to understanding what you don't yet see about how to make all this stuff work.
Awesome. Fantastic advice. Thank you. So I do see we're still getting some nuts and bolts questions in our chat. So classes for your 1L year, you can expect to be Monday to Friday. You'll be broken into smaller cross class sections, and then your section will have the same schedule throughout. And it is largely a mandated curriculum. There's sort of a first year standard curriculum that happens at Albany Law School, and of course at virtually every ABA accredited law school across the country. But not everybody does it exactly the same way. We happen to have a brand new, extremely unique thing that's special to Albany Law School, where first year students get to have a say in at least one of their classes. So I wonder who would love to tell them a little bit about this 1L seminar that they were going to get to elect. Maybe make a plug for your class if you want to do that.
Ouch. Professor Ayers, are you also teaching one?
I'm not teaching one of those, so you go.
Oh no, so it's all on me. All right, so I have a shameless opportunity to plug away. So it's such an interesting opportunity for us as well as for the first years, where we have built in a 1 credit curriculum option. Well, not option, you have an option of what you take, but you have to take one of them. And these are courses that focus on issues of social justice and racial justice, and provide you with an opportunity from the very beginning of your legal education to understand some of the areas of inequality, some of the areas where we have gaps in law as well as in societal practice that impact on who we are as lawyers, that I'm sure many of you, all of you most likely will have seen over certainly the past year unfolding in Black Lives Matter and in other movements and in discussions. So we're giving this opportunity to you from the beginning to not only learn the nuts and bolts, but to learn how to question the nuts and bolts and learn how to understand where there might be biases, where there might be justice issues inherent in all legal education and all law per se, and how you can find your own voice as you're moving forward learning the law to put an end to something that is very important to you, or to try to impact on that. So my shameless plug is for my own class, which will be issues of both so within generations equity, and also intra and intergenerational equity. So the idea that we have equity of all peoples, all members of society at our current generation, and also for the future. So for our children, for our grandchildren, moving forward. There are also a number of other classes on racial injustice, on gender issues, on issues of sexual identity. So there will be a number of different options, and it really is quite fascinating. You will be a new experiment in some ways, but I think it will be a very important experiment moving forward. And it's something that really is unique to Albany Law and shows so much about who we are as a faculty by being able to do this and bring it in so quickly.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to say on that particular issue? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, yeah, just a quick note. I mean, I think one of the really important things that the social justice curriculum is going to add is a little bit of perspective, how you understand what law is supposed to accomplish. And there are a lot of different ideas about this, right? Is it just, you know, when you're an undergrad in a liberal arts college, you may read a lot about social compacts and the Leviathan and some such things. But, you know, when we get down to the practice of law, you realize that these rules were supposed to accomplish particular things. And in large part, you may think about it as a struggle to get power, or a struggle to retain power, or a struggle to make sure that you have superiority by class or race or gender and some such things. And it's important to try a bunch of these out. You may find that all of these frameworks give you a lot of information about what law is supposed to accomplish. You may find, as a lot of these frameworks do, is they help you identify when injustice is happening and where, and give you some clues as to how to stand up, right? Stand up to power. But these kinds of framing classes, they're new, but they're not new, right? I think the big difference all across the nation is that you know, we sort of let students try to figure that out by themselves. And now we're just going to make sure that there's enough exposure to some of these ideas that they recognize both the benefits, but also the downsides of the way law works. And it's going to be really cool and exciting.
Great. Thank you for that. So I'm so excited. I know we're all so excited about it. And I know that you as students are probably, you know, ears perked up because this is really unique and really brand new. So we're going to be sending you more information out over the summer. So many of our faculty members are really putting the sort of the fine tuning on all of these seminars, and our registrar's office is going to figure out how best to reach out to you and have you select your course. So stay tuned for more. But we do think it's super exciting. It's a very unique thing for a 1L to be able to have a say in sort of shaping how their classes are going to go. And I also think that it's really, really a great example of how responsive and engaged our faculty are, not just to what's going on around us in our world, but what our students need, right? That some of the independence and that agility that you heard highlighted, they're always eager to hear from the students and respond in any way that they can. So we look forward to more of that. I know some of our questions always come around that sort of expectation, you know, study groups, how do those form? Are they assigned? Do you make your own? And I know we often get a lot of questions about sort of like, what is my workload expected? Like, how many hours am I in the classroom? How many hours should I be studying? What's my kind of workload life going to be? So does anybody have any advice on that work balance and how study groups may form, or what they want to be looking out for, advice like that?
Yep. Amy, I can take that again because I
have a quick piece.
Okay. Professor? Oh, I was just with respect to study groups, like I don't have study groups in my class. There are certain classes where I don't know, you know, because I've now had a number of students with various professors. I don't know of any professor that assigns study groups, but that might be a question that would actually be better posed for the next panel, which is where you're going to get a students from a selection of all the different professors. So, you know, I will just say that, you know, the workload, again, is going to, you know, there are weeks where it's going to be tougher. I will say this, and this is thinking back to my experience as a law school. Look, it is law school, right? I think it can be fun, but it's hard work. You do have to work. If you can look at it as you're roughly 16 hours worth of classes a day, or I was good, not a day, a week, 16 hours a week. That's how the credits work, right? So 16 credits, so that means you get 16 hours a week. And you got to spend time outside of class learning the stuff and preparing for those classes. So it is tough work, but I like to think of it as, how can you do efficient work, right? Because I can spend 3 hours in front of a computer. It doesn't mean I did 3 hours worth of work. And that's where, you know, speaking with your professors, speaking with some of the upper level students and your classmates, and it might require you to adjust and think about how you spend your time throughout the semester. And it might change from week 1 to week 6. You know, that's where the real learning comes, in my opinion, is learning how to do those things and learning how to be more efficient with your time so that, if you're spending 2 hours in front of a computer, it's actually 2 hours of learning and not just 2 hours of wasting time.
I have a quick comment to make just to add on to what Professor Jim's talking about. For the professors, it's really easy to pick out the students that are not open to the teaching methods and the kinds of thought processes we're trying to teach. Or students that are sort of pretty resistant, are sure that they know what they know and some such things, and they spend and waste a lot of time reading, trying to talk about law in ways that aren't really relevant to the lesson. So, I think a really important message might be, do what your professors are telling you to do. Or maybe a less weird way to say that might be, respect the process, right? The way we teach law, there are a lot of different ways that we teach law, a lot of ways to teach law, but your particular professor does it a particular way for a reason, right? And try to get into the teaching method and make it your learning method as well so that you can see what they're trying to show you. I've had students in the past who have taken a law class as an undergrad and they object to what we're learning because it's not the way they taught it in their undergraduate institution. And that's fantastic and all, but you're just missing what we're learning in this class. And so it's a really good idea to come to the process ready to learn, right? It's really important.
Yeah, can I add something there, Amy? So one of the things that's most challenging about being a lawyer is that you never reach a finish line with any project that you're on. There's no moment where you can look at what you've done and say, it's finished, it's ready. I've completed every possible task that could go into this project. That's true for the briefs that I wrote when I was a practicing lawyer, the argument prep that I did. Nobody's ever ready for oral argument. The day just arrives and you do it, right? And that's because the law itself is infinite. There's no, if only there was a single book that had the law in it and we could read it cover to cover and be done. But that's not how it works. There's always more judicial decisions that could be analogous. There's always more commentary that's been written. There's always, what do they do in other jurisdictions? And so your first year, that's one of the things that's most frustrating for me as somebody who really doesn't like uncertainty. I had to learn to be more comfortable with uncertainty in certain ways because my spouse was a physics major. And so there was a problem set and you'd reach the end of the problem set and you'd be done with your homework. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Right now she's an engineer and I actually think engineers are more similar to lawyers, but what's great about our discipline is you get to do both. You get to think about the theory, the deep thoughts, the deep principles that structure this stuff. And then you also get to think about how it gets operationalized in society. And that's one of the great things about the new elective courses that we have this year. It's actually like an LSAT problem, right? Law is to justice as engineering is to physics. You can work that one out on your own later, but during the first year, I think that sense of how do I know when I'm done? How do I know when I've done enough is part of what makes the self-directed learning experience really an opportunity for personal growth as well as an opportunity for learning the law, that you have to learn to make that judgment and decide, you know what, it's done, I'm going to put it aside. And for a lot of lawyers, me included, that's one of the most difficult things about our profession is to know when can you feel good about putting it aside and actually go out in the backyard and enjoy the sun, right? You'll be tormented a lot of the time. You'll have to navigate that. But that sense of uncertainty about when you're done, that sense of uncertainty about what makes enough, that's a big part of what we're here to teach you. And I think what Professor Hirakawa is saying is so true. It may be different from what you expect. And some students I was a very resistant student. I hated it my first semester until not all the courses. One professor seemed more like what I guess I wanted. I was very resistant and it really got in my way. I was mad. Until I think part of what I realized was curiosity is a lot more important than success, because we don't really get to measure success. We're hungry for it. We look to grades, but grades don't tell you whether you've become a good lawyer. There are great lawyers who didn't get great grades. Other people's validation doesn't tell you whether you've succeeded. There is no real measure of success in our winning cases. Lawyers brag about winning cases. That's ridiculous. You win a case because the law was on your side and the facts were on your side most of the time. People say, I won the case. No, you didn't. The case won the case. You helped. You'll never know how much of a difference you made. We can't measure that. How do you thrive in a profession like that, where you really want to know how well you're doing, but you just can't get that information back out of the world? You develop an internal barometer. You develop a sense of what matters to you, what feels good and what feels right. And first year is you're going to get hit with that pretty hard, but it's a real opportunity.
Fantastic, thanks. So I'm so grateful to all of you for sharing your wisdom with us today. I want to emphasize to our students, our accepted students that are attending, that you'll hear me say it regularly. I'm fond of saying it, you probably have already heard it, that we're beginning conversations, right? Not ending them today. So we could talk for hours and hours and you still would have more to learn and to know. But so since we're down to the last couple of minutes, I want to invite each of you, if there's anything that you wanted to speak on that we didn't quite get to, or if you just have this sort of speed round piece of advice or a thing that you're looking forward to most, closing remarks from any or all of you.
I have one, and this is like, keep an open mind. Many people start law school thinking, I want to do X, right? And thing I hear the most is usually, I want to do criminal law. I want to be a prosecutor. I want to be a defense attorney. And maybe that's true. And if that's true, that is great. But when you start law school, you're going to learn a bunch of other topics too. And so keep an open mind about other things that you might be interested in doing, because the truth is there might be 100 things that you're interested in doing. You have just never been exposed to them. And keeping an open mind about what you may want to do in the future, is the best thing that you can do. And who says you have to do one thing for the rest of your life, right? Like, I don't want to do one thing. I want to do a bunch of different things. And I think that is perfectly fine. So keep an open mind.
Okay, I'll just add one real quick. I saw a question in the chat about book lists and when would be a good time to start the first day reading list. I'm actually not going to answer that question because I don't know when would be a good day to start the first day reading list. I think that varies from person to person, but I do want to say I get questions a lot about what should I do to prepare for law school before I do the first day reading. And I just wanted to say everybody has different answers to that, and there are good answers. My personal answer is just read. Just develop the skill of just sitting down with a text and paying a sustained, engaged attention to it. Books are so great. Books are fantastic. Renew your connection to them, because the one thing you're going to spend a lot of time doing your first year is reading, and read things that challenge you in different ways. If you usually read novels, read some nonfiction. If you usually read history, then read some psychology. Anything that challenges your brain to navigate words that are unfamiliar to you or that come in unfamiliar patterns, I think, and that develop. I'm not into stereotypes about the effect social media has had on the various generations. I'm not even sure which generation I fall into. I think it's Gen X, but it's definitely hard for me these days to sit and not check Twitter and read things for a long time. So practice that skill. That's my piece of advice. Also, practice the skill of reaching out to people to talk about what's happening, because that's going to come in. So practice the skill of being alone and reading, and practice the skill of not being alone and being in contact with people. You're very welcome to reach out to me, but I think anybody at the law school is going to respond to whatever questions you have and anxieties you have. Share it. It gets better when it's shared.
And if I could just jump on in that quickly, just listen. Remember how to listen, because it's to your professors, so you know what we want and what we're trying to tell you, because we're not trying to hide it from you, but also listen to your colleagues, and it will train you to also listen to your clients and listen to the people who you're working with. We are often associating, as Professor Ayers said, ourselves with winning as a victory, and that has an influence on how we see ourselves. But we are advocates, whether it's advocates for ourselves as knowing the material, or our colleagues, we're trying to help them figure out material, or if we're advocates for our clients, ultimately when we're out in the practicing world, we are advocates, and we have to learn how to listen from the very beginning. So learn how to listen and internalize that message. And it can be learn how to listen to your grandma, learn how to listen to your parents or your siblings or anyone else. And it doesn't just have to be in the law school context, but learn that. And it does stay with you, and it really does help you.
Excellent, thank you. Looks like you get the closing word. Professor Hirakawa, you get the
Oh,
last.
fantastic. Is that me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So my stuff is not as smart as everybody else's. And so it's too bad to end on this, but it is really important to think about that in this profession, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to be writing for the rest of your life. But it matters in terms of doing well in law school, right? Because a lot of things that you do when you write tell your professor and your colleagues a lot about how you think. So being self-aware as a writer, I would accept all the suggestions that people are telling you. But from my perspective, the most important thing you can do before you start law school is be self-aware of how you write, what your skills are, your strengths and your weaknesses, so you know what to work on. If you want help with that, reach out to your professors. I'm happy to do it. I've done it a million times. I've worked with students before they start law school on just thinking about the different components of a paragraph and how you write sort of structurally and with meaning and what words you choose and punctuation, whatever the case may be. Reach out. Right? This is what we want to do is get you ready so that you can effectively do what we're asking you to do. A lot of it's writing. Right? And congratulations once again.
Thank you to each of you for joining us today. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you, and I'm sure that our guests look forward to getting to learn more from you. So thanks for that. To all of our guests, we're going to take a quick 5-minute stretch break, right? So if you need to get up, stretch, refresh yourself, whatever you need to do, approximately 2:15 or so, we're going to start in on our student panel. So we'll meet a bunch of our current students, and it'll be moderated by our current dean of students. So if you need to step away for a moment, please do, but do hurry back because we're going to jump right back in. So thanks to our faculty.
And thank Amy, is it 2:30, the return, the social?
Oh, 3:30.
3:30. Okay, thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you. See you then.
Yep. And we'll see everybody for the student panel at about 2:15. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Dean Queenan, I think the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone, and congratulations. I'm Rosemary Queenan. I'm the Dean of Students, and I'm also on the faculty, and I teach the first year course called Federal Civil Procedures. So I hope to see you in the fall, and hopefully you'll be in my class. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to this wonderful panel, and our goal really is to give you a sense of what it's like to be a student at Albany Law School. So I'm going to, we have two very recent graduates and 4 students. And so I'm going to start with just briefly introducing them, and then we'll start our conversation. And so please feel free to add questions to the chat or raise your hand, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to start with Alex Marie Baez, who graduated in 2020. And I like to think that Alex Marie liked it so much when she was a student here that she has now joined us. And she is our postgraduate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Fellow. So she's now come back, and she's a member of our community. And we're really grateful to have her here. Thanks, Alex Marie. She's going to talk to you a little bit more about her role later on in the discussion. And then our very, very recent graduate, Elizabeth Volkman, who graduated with her classmates in person last Friday. Libby, congratulations. And as Dean Millett said, we were able to have our commencement last week in person, and Alex Marie's class, the class of 2020, also graduated that day, even though their technical graduation was a year ago. So it was a beautiful day and a lovely opportunity to celebrate with both classes. So our students are Jenna Di Benedetto, who, I don't know, Jenna, have you been introduced yet as a 3L? So she is now going to start her 3rd year. Jenna, thanks for being here. And Matthew Walsh as well is or entering his 3rd year of law school. Hello, Matt. And then we have 2 students who just finished their one first year and one first semester. So Cassandra Caruto, hi Cassandra, just finished her 1st year, and Jenabu Diallo, who Jenabu started in January, so she just finished her 1st semester. So thank you all for being here, and congratulations to all of you. So you've heard from our faculty about what it's like to be in the classroom, but we thought it would be nice for the students to share their perspective about what it's like to be a student at Albany Law School, particularly in class. And so maybe the students could share their favorite class and share with us your interactions with faculty. Most first year classes have teaching assistants assigned to their classes. So students, if you could share your experience in working with the teaching assistants as well, I think that would give our accepted students a really good idea of what it's like to be a student here. And then later we'll talk about being a student outside of the classroom, but let's start there. So I'm happy to call on all of you, but does anybody want, Genevieve wants me to call on her. I'm sure she misses that. So does anybody want to start the conversation?
Did I get the cold call?
Yes, go ahead, Genevieve. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Dean Queenan.
Hi. Nice
I see a lot. Nice to see you too. Hi, Ben. Hi, Persia. I see a lot of my favorite people on here. So my favorite class, Dean Queenan, is that like a
You don't have to talk
do you
about
want
civil
me to
procedure,
say
Jennifer.
civil procedure?
Of course I want you to, but you can talk about whatever class you'd like.
Okay, well, I did have a unique experience in every single class. I think it was very refreshing to, go into school and learn something completely out of the norm. And I think that we come into law school with the perception that we know what we're going to study and how we're supposed to learn. But when you get into the classroom, it's a completely different experience. And my experience is semi-unique because my classes were mostly virtual since I started in the spring in the midst of COVID. So like you guys, I'm also looking forward to the in-person experience. Just finishing up my first semester. I will say that the classes do raise a lot of discussion points as far as how we're challenging our thought process, what we're thinking about. And you have to learn to balance that with this view of objectivity when you're trying to actually retain the information. So one of the things that I struggled with coming in as a liberal arts major was that I came into law school thinking it was about my opinion when it's really about how they get to the opinion through the analysis. You're going to read a lot of cases. You're going to see a lot of judges and how they come to their conclusions. And you might not completely agree with it, but don't be like me and, and argue every point. But I think one of the staff, one of the faculty members said before, try to listen in your classes, try to engage in questions and talk to your professors because each professor is unique. Dean Queenan is very, how do I say it? She gets straight to the point. She has a certain way that she wants you to think. So what you have to do in law school is you have to personalize your answers and you have to personalize how you learn according to each class. So that's going to be a skill that you develop over time. And don't beat yourself up if you don't get an A. And that's something that I just got my grades back from my first semester. So I did okay. I did okay. I'm not going to say I got a 4.0, right? But I'm happy because I did my best. And I think that, the upperclassmen could probably speak on how you improve over time. So, yeah.
Thanks, Genevieve.
You're welcome.
So Libby, you've been through a lot of classes. So how about you? Could you share what it's like to be in class and your interactions with faculty and teaching assistants?
Sure. So it's been a while since I've taken a 1L class, so I don't really remember them as well as I do the more recent classes. But I will say as a 1L, I really enjoyed my intro to lawyering class. It's the smallest class there is. I know you heard from Professor Jim earlier. He's one of the professors for that, or he used to be. I don't know if he still is.
Yeah,
I would assume so. Okay. So I was in a bit of a different situation. You're supposed to have the same professor for the full year, but I ended up having one for the first semester and one for the second semester. So I did have it a little differently than everyone else, but that's where the TAs really benefited me. Everyone teaches writing just a little bit differently. So it was great to have the students there who've already been through the course. I would use them quite frequently. But I really just liked the intro to lawyering class because it was such a small setting. I went to UAlbany. So I was not used to small classes. It was just the 15 of us and our professor, and I was not used to that. So I really did like that. And it was really great to have our TAs there as well. And it's pretty much where you learn everything about writing and you practice your oral arguments and everything in that class. So it was really helpful. But as for an after 1L class, I am interested in criminal law. So I had a concentration in criminal law, so I mostly went down that course, but I took a trial practice simulation course, and I highly recommend any simulation course you can take. You are just being thrown right into learning how to do things. Day one, they're okay, let's do opening arguments. And it's just, I think that I learned more in simulation classes than I like to say that I do, because they're just so helpful and very unique and very cool. And even with it being on Zoom, we were still able to get the full experience out of it. So simulation courses, definitely take those in your 2L and 3L year. There's a lot of options.
Thank you. Matt, did you do a clinic? You want to talk a little bit about your experience in the clinic?
Yeah, so I actually just barely finished the clinic a couple weeks ago, so this is all pretty fresh in my mind. So the clinic, for those of you who don't know, we have the Justice Center here at the law school, and there's different practice areas in the Justice Center. I was working in the Family Violence Litigation Clinic, which works with people around the community, victims of domestic violence, children, and other related family law matters. And so if you haven't done like an internship in the law area, this will probably be your first your first experience working on real cases and working with real clients. And so it was definitely kind of weird to experience that, because I had done some internships in the past, but COVID also kind of derailed one of them. So so all of last semester, it was working on, real cases. You got to interview clients. I got to speak before a judge a couple times, which was pretty nerve wracking. But to be honest, it was easier once I was actually doing it. It was more nerve wracking leading up to this speaking, I should say. I think that's a good way to put it. But you have a professor who's in charge of each area of the clinic, and I had a professor, Jaya Connors, and I thought she was awesome. And she kind of shows you the ropes, and it's a very information cramming kind of thing. You have to learn a lot of stuff all at once. You have to pick up a lot of stuff all at once. And the first couple weeks or month of it, you get to feel kind of overwhelmed. But once you get through that and you get towards the end, it's a great experience. I would highly recommend doing any of the clinics. I like the one I participated in, but there's other ones as well. So I would highly recommend it. It's a great experience once you get past your first year, because you can't do it in your first year. But so I would just recommend doing it if you guys do get the chance to.
Thanks, Matt. Cassandra and Jenna, and want to add anything about classes, interacting with faculty, TAs? Go ahead, Jenna.
Yeah, I would say that I can give the example of the person who was not number one in the class after their first semester. And coming from working for a year before coming to law school, that definitely created a little bit of a learning curve for me about being back in academia and being a student. But I learned quickly that people were, and myself included, were not utilizing TAs to their full potential. And I tell everyone, if your TA is willing to speak to you, go speak to that TA, because I have friends who are TAs and they'll sit for most of the semester with no one coming in to visit them during their office hours. They'll just sit and do their own homework during their office hours, and then the midterm will hit and all of a sudden there'll be a line out the door, or the Zoom waiting room now, and you'll wish you'll have established that relationship, because I got into a routine after kind of learning what worked best for me with studying and learning, where I would kind of, for example, for a class, if I had like a weekly assignment, do the assignment, then go to my TA and kind of see how they would suggest I edit it, and then go to the professor and work with the three of us together to make sure I was hitting every possible option for how to get those points for myself when a final came around. So I would definitely just advise that, if you're worried about, not being number one in the class after your first semester, I'm someone who can tell you from experience that her grades this semester are turning out way better than fall 2019 Jenna could have ever hoped for. Being hard on herself about grades that fall 2019 Jenna would have dreamed about. So, you can do it if you kind of learn the best way for yourself, and by utilizing the resources that are available to you, that's going to help. I also wanted to plug that how Libby was saying, the practicum classes are invaluable. One of my favorites was fact investigation with Judge Donovan, which Libby took with me and walks you through all kind of the pre-trial steps before a trial. So how to do a deposition, how to read a case file, things like that. And I also loved mediation, which you can become certified for the New York courts through a partnership with Albany Law, and then be able to do the mediation apprenticeship for your field placement. And that one, I really think is an invaluable skill as a practicing attorney, or even a non-practicing, individual with a JD, because it just teaches you so much about how to interact with people and how to problem solve. So getting the opportunity to take those classes in cohesion to things that are going to help you prep for the bar exam are going to make you such a more well-rounded individual and such a better asset to the legal community. So,
thanks, Jenna. Cassandra.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add about the TAs. They're really amazing. Definitely utilize them. Like Jenna said, I'm definitely guilty of being one of those people that a couple of times went too late, or not too late because they're always willing to help you, but when everyone else was going at the same time, like midterms and finals and things like that. But to add on to that, they were always so willing to help you no matter what, no matter if they had a relationship with you before or anything like that. Like something that sticks out to me a lot was last semester. It was the night before my property final. And I don't recommend necessarily waiting to ask your TAs that because they're usually not obligated at that point to answer your questions. But Kathleen Anderson, who was the TA in property, she had emailed us that day saying, if anyone has any questions today, like I'm okay with you contact me about it. And I emailed her the night of, like, it was like the later evening asking, I'm sorry, like, can you meet with me? And she sat with me for like over an hour going over some writing things that I wrote and giving me feedback and giving me advice and just kind of like calming me down before the exam. And they're just really amazing because it's not only just helping you with the stuff that you need to know, but also helping with sort of like your mindset going into the exam and kind of being just sort of like a friend for you, even if you don't have that relationship beforehand. So definitely take advantage of them. They're there to help you, like Jenna said.
I love that story. It's so great. And just to follow up on what Cassandra was saying, the TAs are also taking exams, right? So it was really nice that your TA did that for you. And it speaks a lot of how the students are at Albany Law School, and the TAs really want to give back. They really want to help. And they are such an excellent resource. And so definitely take advantage of that resource. So a question came up in the faculty session about study groups. So, and I know Professor Jim suggested that some of the students talk about that. So do any of you have anything you'd want to share about how you may have gone about arranging a study group? I know there were even virtual study groups that happened recently, but some of you may have, pre-pandemic had some study groups as well. So does anybody want to share any thoughts on that, or how it was formed and how it benefited you in studying? And
I would just say it's an individual experience. Don't feel obligated to kind of lean into a study group if it's not the right fit for you. For me personally, I'm not great with big group study. I ended up just kind of over time developing a close friendship with 2 girls from my section. And so even when we were remote last spring, we had a Zoom meeting called Virtual Lunch Table, and we just get on every day at lunchtime because the 2 girls lived alone. So that way they had someone to like chat with every day. And then we would kind of like develop kind of talking about what was going on in class and things like that. So I think there's a lot of ways that a study group can be a study group. It's not necessarily like something from a movie where you all sit down with a stack of case books together and who's reading which case. And each person studies and learns differently. But finding maybe a couple friends who, kind of you can at least talk about material with, or, have as a support system in case, something isn't, connecting for you and you just want to, hash it out together, is a really great resource. And I'd also say, like, don't be afraid about putting yourself out there and, trying to find other individuals to study if that's something that's really important to you, even if they're not in your direct first year section. My dad always makes fun of me about like, my generation or like people who are in school right now, how like, I would always tell them, like, in undergrads, I would never think to like walk up to someone in the cafeteria and ask if I could sit with them at lunch. And he's like, why not? Like, you never know, maybe, if you're in a class with them, you never know. And you'll have probably, 1 or 2 other sections in all of your classes. So, and for my situation, at least, I usually had a couple of those sections in multiple classes with me. So, don't be afraid to kind of step outside of your section as well and make those kind of connections to find people to study with as well. Because you might find that, they have a similar background to you, or they might have even come from the same undergrad as you and kind of might understand how you work and study. So don't be afraid of like making those new friendships to study with as well.
Can I just add on to something
Sure.
Jenna said? Yeah, so like one of the main key takeaways that I took from how to formulate my own study group was, well, I'm a visual learner. So when you're in a class where everything is mostly lecture based, it's hard to maybe follow what the professor is saying. And you might have to go outside of class or Quimby or just use an additional resource to kind of supplement that. So one of the ways that I like needed to learn was engage with my classmates. And I come from a class where we have a lot of non-traditional students. So we have a bunch of teachers, we have property owners and military veterans. So I was able to kind of see where their life experiences helps them in that area of law, and then get that real world like perspective and view that the teacher might not be able to provide for us during the classroom because there's just way too much to cover. So I remember in Dean Queenan's class, we have a court reporter who's one of my classmates, Leslie, and she gave us a whole briefing on depositions and how they're formed. And we were like we were like court reporters' lives matter, because we really like learned so much about her role and like what she provides to the courtroom that as a lawyer you might not know. So I think that it's going to be really important in terms of building relationships with your classmates, because you never know what they can add to your experience. And it's easy when you come straight out of undergrad and, you know, it's like, oh, okay, well, I majored in this. Well, what about this person who had this life experience, who did this and that? So they provide a whole nother perspective to your study, to your law school experience that you're actually like use in the real world. So for me, just studying with those kinds of people really transformed my mind. And also a lot of people may have different ways to explain things. So say you have a teacher who you really just don't understand like how they are portraying the information, or you're struggling with it, you can talk to your classmate who understands what they're talking about, and they can probably communicate it to you in the way that you would learn. So it's just about helping each other and like kind of building on your strengths and helping another person. So I think for my class, we set up Zooms every Saturday. And if you wanted to join in, you could. So we were very into trying to help one another, because, you know, that's the beauty of having a small class. There were only 26 of us, so we wanted to help each other. And I don't know if that's going to be the same for you guys because you're coming in the fall, but I would say like what Jenna said, find that small group of people that would, you know, help you succeed.
Thanks, Genevieve. So I want to move on to extracurricular, but before we do that, Alex Marie, do you want to share anything else? So Alex Marie was also a teaching assistant, and so she might have some thoughts she wants to share about that and study groups or anything else before we move on.
Absolutely. I was a teaching assistant for Professor Jim, actually, and I was actually his first teaching assistant. He was new. It was his very first semester teaching. The semester I was so suddenly asked to become. And I had a very unique teaching assistant experience in that way, where Professor Jim and I collaborated a lot on, you know, how he wanted the class to run and what was working and what I thought about, you know, my 1L version of that class. I was a TA for a not everyone's favorite class called lawyering, which is the legal writing class. Unpopular opinion is I really enjoy legal writing, which is why I became a TA. And that is something to recognize. I was so bored during so many of my office hours because a lot of students would, I think, just wait out of fear to ask questions, and especially writing questions often made, I think, students feel a little bit of those impostery feelings, a little inadequate. So it's like writing, I've been doing this forever. Like, that's how I got here. Why is this so difficult? Legal writing is so different. The way you're thinking, or the way you're being asked to think and write and analyze, is so different. And so I really encourage you to lean on those resources. You know, I became a TA and my colleagues became TAs because we love to teach. We love to interact with the students. And I so desperately wish more of them would have interacted with me outside of, you know, 5 days before their appellate brief was due. But, you know, and I was a TA where if you emailed me at 3 a.m, like having a panic attack, like, you know, I'd email you back. You know, we are very committed to the teaching. So definitely, like, don't be afraid of your TAs, and nobody thinks any question is stupid. Like, we've all been there before, all had the stupid seeming question, and you don't play yourself like that. Like, get answers, you know, and have, respect for yourself in that way. Know your limits and know your strengths. And I think that's kind of what Genevieve was getting at a little bit there is, leaning on the strengths of your peers can be so helpful. My 1L year, the person who sat directly next to me in every single class, he's a father, he's a homeowner, and a full-time employed with the Army. And I cannot tell you how difficult understanding mortgages was for me in property and mortgage law. And all I had to do was ask him because he has a mortgage. Good. Like on this different level. And you're all going to be coming from different places, different parts of the world. I'm originally from Florida. I came here from Texas Tech University. So I came from Texas up to New York. And, the culture might be different. Adjusting might be different for everybody, but that means you all have different strengths and different limits. And so know those, know what your limits are, and don't be afraid to, lean on your colleagues who might have strengths that are different from you. I attribute much of my success to I had a very close knit group of friends. We all became friends because we all sat next to each other for the whole year. And, we were all from all types of different backgrounds. And that really helped. We were able to help each other with, silly things like mortgages, but also, more in-depth, ways of thinking about analyzing and maybe how we did it in college versus how we're doing it now. So I would love to echo what everyone said of please talk to your TAs office hours just to sit there.
Good advice. Great. Thank you.
Definitely rely on your strengths and the strengths of your peers.
Thank you.
Someone asked a question in the chat, Dean Queenan.
Okay. Can you read it to me?
Strange question, but for classes, do you guys dress up?
It's a good question. You want to answer?
Home class, no. But when you do go to campus, you do want to somewhat look professional. You don't need to be in a suit and tie, but I'm in the military, so they say professionalism is everything. So presentation is everything. So if you go into a classroom, you want to present yourself as you would want people to perceive you. So I wouldn't go in with pajamas, but maybe a nice blouse or something. Present yourself well. Yeah.
Good answer.
I have a response to that. I actually dress incredibly casual every day.
Okay, take back everything that I said.
Take a lesson from me. I one time met a founding partner of a firm in a tie-dye sweatshirt. So do with that information what you will. They say dress for the job you want, not for the job you had that day. I dressed for camp counselor, and that was that. But it's not like business wear every day. But I always recommend to people when they visit admissions that take pride in how you look. But sometimes people recommend leave a blazer in your locker. You all have a locker when you come. Leave a blazer in your locker. That way, if you throw on a blouse or even a sweater to come to school, but you have the opportunity to meet with someone, you just throw on your blazer and you look pulled together. So I recommend that.
Yeah, one other thing too is maybe this is just me who noticed it, but the first couple weeks you'll see people really looking good when they come into class every day. Then after those first couple of weeks, maybe a month and at the most, everyone's kind of, I don't want to say given up, but they've given up on dressing nice for sure, because at that point you just all right, I just want to wear something comfy today. I've never been one for dressing up myself, and I know that's ironic because I want to be a lawyer, but you can wear whatever you want when you come to school. Just don't be stupid about it.
Yeah, and I agree with Genevieve. No pajamas.
No pajamas. No pajamas.
Agree. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what it's like to be a student outside of the classroom. So you heard a little bit about this already. We have a very engaged student body. We offer a wide variety of opportunities for you to get involved as a student. We have a very engaged student bar association, which includes elected representatives from each class. We have, I think, over 30, maybe and counting, student organizations, a very robust moot court program, and 3 student-led academic journals. And the student organizations and the journals organize educational events, networking events, social events, So really, there's a lot to do, and as we've been saying, hopefully, as things improve, we will be together and be able to have a lot of these events and programs on campus. So you have a group of students who have been engaged and involved in a lot of different things, and I might highlight a few, but I'm sure there are many that they are involved in. So Libby was the president of the third year class and a member of the Student Bar Association. Matt is on the executive board of the rugby club. Jenna, I know, has been really involved in moot court, and she's going to be on the executive board of our moot court program. Cassandra, I know you've been an ambassador, right? Admissions ambassador. Jenna Boo is involved in the Black Law Students Association and the Muslim Law Students Association. Alex Marie was involved in the Women's Law Caucus, and I'm sure there are many other things. So share whatever you'd like to talk about, panelists, but maybe I'll just start with Libby. Could you talk a little bit about the Student Bar Association?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a 1L, I think there's 5 spots open that you'll be able to run for once you get to school and get settled in. Student Bar Association is responsible for handling the logistics of student events on campus. So anytime a club or organization wants to have an event, they propose it to us, and we go through the steps of approving the event, approving the budget. Sometimes during COVID, it has to be approved by a separate safety and planning committee as well. So as Dean Queenan said, there's educational events, social events, networking events, but there's also SBA specific planned events, which is there's a Halloween party, a welcome back party, barrister's ball, which is basically law prom. And then we have a Student Bar Association events committee as well, which plans more of the educational and networking events. So you can get involved in your first year, but even if that's not the kind of commitment that you're interested in, we do have a lot of committees and other ways to be involved in SBA as well. So I was on SBA in my second and my third year, and we would meet about every other Monday for a couple hours, and it was very rewarding, and I got to meet a lot of people through it as well. So that was very good. A lot of students that I probably wouldn't have met if I never had class with them, and a lot of professionals as well.
Jenna, you want to talk a little bit about moot court?
Sure. So unintentionally, moot court kind of became my home. But so moot court's really great because you can be involved during all 3 years with differing, abilities. So as a first year student, you can't compete, but you can obviously attend and watch the round, which is great experience for your lawyering classes with Gabrielli, for example, or just in general for looking to what type of practice you might want to do in your summers. As a second and third year, you can compete in different varieties, and you can also be on the moot court board. So my first year, I volunteered for 1 or 2 competitions just to kind of see if it was something that interested me. And then this past year, I kind of ran the gambit on competitions for in school and on a travel team where I actually met Libby and remember that Libby gave me my tour at Albany Law School. And yeah, it's a very full circle. And then through my friendship with Libby and the 2 other girls on my travel team, one of the women on the travel team, who's now the executive director of Moot Court Board, approached me and asked me to apply to Moot Court Board, which is how I became on Moot Court Board for next year. So it definitely has been a great way of community for me and a way to kind of connect with other students and peers that I might not have ever met otherwise. And now, like I said, I'll be the chair next year for the Gabrielli competition, which is our biggest second year competition, which is an appellate advocacy competition. And that's a really great opportunity to network as well. So all of these competitions and opportunities from Moot Court give you the chance to meet students from other schools, give you the chance to meet practicing attorneys and judges in the area, alumni, and also just to interact with your peers and get to network with them. My run with Gabrielli as a student competitor, I actually randomly matched with another student to compete together, and we ended up, being successful in that and winning an award during the competition. So just goes to show you never really know who you can, bump into and have the opportunity to connect with, and then, have a positive experience with them. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of that opportunity. And it's also a great talking point when you're looking for a job or something, to kind of have that experience to get practical skills. So I recommend it.
Thank you, Jenna. So Jenna, I know Jenna Bo's only been here for a semester, but do you want to share a little bit about your experience with BALSA or MALSA?
Yeah, sure. And to go to Jenna's point, I did participate because if you're 1L, you can't compete, like she said. You can participate as a bailiff, which is basically being a timekeeper, and you can participate as a juror. So as a 1L, I got to see what it's like when certain judges, I think it's like appellate court judges, question you in an oral argument, and it's very intense. You get to see what that's like, and you also get to see what it's like during a mock trial. So that was really, I think it was very important for me to relate that to my classes, to see how that actually works, especially in civil procedure, to see, oh, this is what you do when you say your honor, blah, 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 the things that you see on TV. It actually does happen in real life. For BALSA, so BALSA is the Black Law Student Association, and BALSA has been tremendously helpful to me. So they provided mock exams for students, because you don't know what it's like to take an exam when you first start school. So BALSA actually pairs up with the professors, and they create exams for us. So I was able to take a mock exam ahead of time to see what it would be like on the final, and that was really helpful. The Black Law Student Association was founded in I think 1968 across the nation, and Albany Law School, I think by adapting that organization, I think it gives a place for Black students, to engage with each other, to talk about legal issues, to show themselves in their community at the law school. One of the reasons why I think it's important that our school continues to diversify is because there are not enough of people of color in these institutions. So I think the Black Law Student Association definitely gave me a space where I see students who look like me, and it makes me feel like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who's here. And I think it's just sometimes being culturally connected to certain people, I think definitely gives you a different experience. As far as the Muslim Law Student Association, I just joined, and I was asked to be the vice president next semester. So I'm very excited about that. And I've met some great people in the process. One of my goals is to bring the idea of Muslims and bring in our perception of what Islam means into the legal world, and trying to connect those two bridges, because one thing that I realized is a lot of people don't really know what it is to be a Muslim, what that means. I remember I was fasting during Ramadan in class, and a lot of people had no idea why I wouldn't eat from sunup to sundown. And it was, but after we had the Ramadan event, I think we were able to educate a lot of people. So I think part of joining student orgs is finding yourself, and also realizing that you can have a community outside of the classroom, and also realizing that your networks and opportunities are not limited to the classrooms. I've also had the experience of working with Ben on a podcast, which was wonderful, wonderful. It was the best experience I've ever had at the law school. And it was just fun, because I got to
Nice
know
job, Ben.
one of my professors, Professor Rayhan, who was my property professor, whose class I did the worst in, but it was still like, I love her. And you just get to know a little bit more about the community that you're in, and you get to build relationships with teachers. Like Dean Queenan, for example, she is like a phenomenal woman, like she's not only a teacher, she's an assistant dean of students, she sending people cookies. Like, I don't understand how she has time to be a woman that just does everything, but she's the reason why I think I'm able to get a lot of the opportunities, because not only have I engaged with her in the classroom, I've also engaged with her outside of the classroom. And I think that's going to be important for us, and for you as students, to continue to realize that it's beyond your grades. So don't be too hard on yourself, but realize that, you know, there are infinite amount of opportunities, and getting engaged if you can, especially if you don't have children, or you're here in law school. So manifest yourself in that, and do what you have to do. So sorry for my
Thank you,
spiel,
Jennifer.
but
No,
yeah.
it's okay. So just, we're running a little short on time. So there was a question in the chat asking that you share one thing you wish you knew before you started law school. So I'm going to ask the panelists to add to the chat. Maybe you could share that in the chat. That would be great, because I want to give Alex Marie a little bit of a chance to talk about her role. So as I said when I introduced Alex Marie, she's our very new first postgraduate diversity, equity, and inclusion fellow. And her role really is intended to provide support to students and develop and work on programs and initiatives that ensure that students feel included on campus. And so I want her to talk a little bit about that and some of the work that she's been doing. And meanwhile, the rest of you, please add some thoughts in the chat. I think there was another question that I missed too, but Alex Marie, please take it away. And then hopefully we'll have a couple minutes for questions to end. Thanks.
Absolutely. So very excited to be in this role. You know, the law school is really working towards really investing in diversity, equity, inclusion. And, you know, my role is a part of that. And I work directly with the student body, and I've been having such a lovely time because everybody's been so nice to me. And, you know, what has been really interesting about this job is, you know, being in an equity and inclusion role, you know, I've kind of become a safe space for some students to just air some grievances, and even to just make suggestions that I've actually been able to put into motion and action for them. And that is something I'm so excited to be doing. You know, one of the first things I've been working on is, you know, within my first week, the Student Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which is something that does exist here, they asked me if I could make resources on name pronunciations, that there's just some students that are having a hard time, feeling isolated, feeling on an island, not getting called on in class, don't feel as engaged with. And I was able to put together a whole little resource for them, and also for the faculty and staff. And, you know, it's great being able to give back to the student community in this way. You know, I will say I'm a first generation university and law student. So it was a very hard adjustment for me coming to law school. My family doesn't, still to this day, I don't think, really understand what law school was as an experience for me, and what I do now, promoting, you know, more inclusion and equity, not just at the school, but, you know, in a much broader way out in, you know, the legal field. You know, it's very much my personal goal to ensure, especially other students who are similarly situated like me, who come in maybe thinking they know what law school is, but really get a dose of reality in the first month, that everybody feels supported, heard, and that we are just doing our darn hardest to make sure that everybody feels included. And that has just been so awesome to work with the students in doing that. And I'm very excited to hear all of your perspectives once you get started here. And I will add out loud, the one thing I wish I knew before coming to law school was actually the path to becoming an attorney. I thought I knew what that was. I was mistaken. You know, I thought it was just the bar exam, and like, we take the bar exam and now you're an attorney. And that is not the case. You know, there are other qualifications along the way. There's ethics exam, there's the state bar exam, law exam, New York law exam is what it's called here. You know, there are a lot of other things to consider, pro bono hours, and, you know, those are the things I hope to make more known and accessible in my role. And especially for our first gen students, you know, it might feel a little out of control, and you might feel a little lost. And there were definitely times where I felt super overwhelmed by like new information. What do you mean I have to take this test next semester I've never heard of? You know, it happens. But that's what we're working towards, eradicating those surprises. And I really hope to be here for you, and I really hope to be an even better resource moving forward. I think I've only been here for 3 months now, and like so much has happened. So finally get to see all your faces in person next year.
Thank you,
And,
Alex.
and Alex is great. Sorry, I had a conversation with her. She's very good. Yeah.
She is very good. We're very grateful to have her. And she's already working on preparing resources along some of the issues that she's been sharing with you, so that hopefully you'll join us in the fall, and you'll have Alex Marie, in addition to all the other support on campus from your fellow students, the faculty, the staff. And I know we've got some of our alum on the call now, which is great. So if you have questions, I know we're short on time. There's never enough time to talk to the students on this student panel, but I'm sure if you add your questions in the chat, they'd be happy to stick around and answer them. And I will also start reading the chat and see if I can chime in as well. But I want to thank our students and our graduates for being here and sharing your thoughts on what it's like to be at Albany Law School. And congratulations again to all the accepted students. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully in the fall.
Yes, well, thank you to everybody. Thank you, Dean Queenan, and all of our wonderful student participants, and Alex Marie, who is now our fellow. There was one quick question in the chat at the end there about journals. So if any of you have experience with journals and you want to respond in the chat, that would be appreciated, but we can also make connections as we established.
Thank you.
So I do want to give us another 3-5 minute break, another little stretch break, right? I know sometimes we just need to get up, get away from the computer, move our legs, stretch ourselves, refresh ourselves. So if you need to step away for a couple of minutes, please do, but then come back to join us, because we have 3 alumni who are eager to address you. And then we're going to have an open Q&A with a whole bunch of members of our community. And I think it's a really fun way to round out and close out the day, so you won't want to miss it. So just join us back in just 3 minutes or so, and we'll get started.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Jenna Boo, thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye.
Queen Drive. I'll save your cookie. I'm gonna go check my mailbox now. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So for our next session, we have 3 of our very distinguished and active alumni that we are so proud to have as great friends of the law school. So you're going to hear from them first, and then after the 3 of them get to speak to you directly, we will have a broader conversation, an open conversation with larger members of our community, and Dean Willett will be back to help us moderate that conversation. So first up, we have the Honorable Christina Riva. She is a 2001 graduate of Albany Law School, and in 2015, she was elected to the Supreme Court in the 3rd Judicial District after years in public and private practice. She is a member of our Board of Trustees and a very good friend to us at Albany Law School and all of our students she mentors regularly. So Judge Riva, we're so happy to have you. The floor is yours.
Great, good afternoon, and thank you for including me in this exciting Accepted Students Day. First, I want to congratulate all the accepted students and their families. Without a doubt, you conquered taking the LSATs, graduating from college, the application process, and were selected to be members of our Albany Law School family. You deserve a round of applause, really. Now, for a bit of history, I graduated from Albany Law School over 20 years ago, and I have to say that getting my legal education at Albany Law School really set the tone for my career. It was Albany Law School where I met some of my closest friends. It was Albany Law School where I realized that I really wanted to be a lawyer, which started out as just a backup plan. Originally, I applied to law school and decided to go only if my dream of becoming an actor failed to come to fruition. However, once I was exposed to the excellent faculty and staff here, my plans for the future took a different shape, especially after making it to the national trial team in my 2nd year and having the opportunity to craft an opening statement. I was hooked because some of the skills required for effective litigation include acting, so it really was a perfect fit. And once I made it through my 1st year, which in my opinion is the hardest year of law school, I realized that I really wanted to become a litigator. Now you will find that Albany Law provides opportunities to explore so many different areas of the law, from cybersecurity to trust and estates. I took advantage of being a part of the Student Bar Association, the national trial team, and a judicial field placement. And it was the field placement that ignited my goal of eventually becoming a judge. I was in my 2nd year of law school when I began the internship with Supreme Court Justice Bernard Malone. Working with his law clerk, I was tasked with writing decisions, researching areas of the law, and observing trials. I was truly inspired. Now, I didn't become a Supreme Court Justice overnight. It was the connections I made with alumni from this school that gave me advice along the way. These connections and the support that alumni, faculty, and staff give are just a few of the many reasons why getting your Juris Doctorate from Albany Law is an excellent choice. Without a doubt, there are several alumni on the state and federal bench, attorneys in private practice, and public service. These practitioners are always here to guide you on your path, and they may even offer you a job when you graduate. So also since 2016, a number of Albany Law School students have completed field placements in my chambers. It's always a great learning experience for the students to observe trials and learn how to write decisions. And it's also a really good opportunity for me and my staff to serve as mentors. These students often come back and visit us. Some call on us, myself and my staff, for advice about jobs, references, and we are always so happy to see them grow and start their own legal careers. Currently, in my role as a member of the Board of Trustees, I am honored to serve alongside extremely talented attorneys and other justices. And as a member of the trustees, I continue to learn from my peers. So from my experience, Albany Law School is the gift that keeps giving. At the end of the day, when you choose Albany Law School, you build connections and the opportunity to grow no matter how successful you become. And on a personal note, I met 2 of my dearest friends the first day of law school, and we have been there for each other through what feels like a lifetime. The bar exam, weddings, divorces, kids, job opportunities, and so much more. Albany Law was clearly the right choice for me. So thank you for listening to my remarks, and congratulations again on your acceptance to Albany Law School. I look forward to seeing you in person on campus in the next 3 years. Please enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks again.
And thank you so much, Judge Reba. We appreciate you. And I know that we all enjoy seeing you back again in person very, very soon. So next up to speak to you, we have attorney Paul Harding. So Paul is a law school graduate and an Albany Law School graduate and a member of our board of trustees. He tells me those are two accolades that sometimes make him pinch himself to believe it's all real. But I'm just going to go ahead and let him tell you a little more about that. So attorney Harding, you're up.
I'm up. All right, well,
Yeah, there
thank
you go.
guys.
You made it.
Can you hear me? Is that a yes?
That's a yes. We got you.
Okay, fantastic. So a very early mentor of mine gave me some advice. Said to me, the big decisions in life make themselves. The things that are really important when you have to make a decision, when you're sitting on that proverbial fence and you have to make a call, he said, you don't really have to make that decision. You've already made that decision. You just have to find a way to extract that from yourself. The decision's already made through your mind, your body, your soul. You can just find a way to get it out. I said, well, how do you get it out? This is good news. I'm in pain with this decision. And he said, well, it's simple. You ask yourself a simple question. You say, what does 51% of me want to do? I said, come again? He said, no, figure out what your majority, if you're going to make a decision right now, what does the majority, 51% of you want to do? And that's your decision. You've already made it. Find a way to get it out. Now, the truth is that has been an effective tool that I have used over the years. And it's really not 51. You might be at 80-20, you might be at 90-10, because the truth be told, there's never a decision that is completely 100%, very rarely. So that kind of stuff is the stuff that I know you guys are in the middle of, right? So is it a big decision what law school you go to? Yeah, critical, life-changing. The path you take now is going to have an effect on the rest of your life. You said, thanks, Paul, added more pressure to a decision. Most of you have made that decision. Some of you pretty close to making that decision, but I would add this piece. You've heard great stuff. You've heard about the school. You've heard about bar passage rates. You've heard of the professors, internships, job opportunities. I'm not going to talk about any of that. What I want to do for just a few minutes, and I am sensitive to my time, is that I am going to pull out just a sliver of the experience, what I think is the most critical in the decision-making mode. So here we go. If we believe that it's people, not places, that have the most effect on us, right? I think that's a pretty easy argument to make. We've all been places. We've been out to dinner. We've been on beaches. We've been in beautiful sites, but the people around us, the people that we're with, are not supporting and encouraging, and it's not working out. It doesn't matter where you are. And we've all been in that backyard party, nothing fancy, serving marshmallows and beer. And we sit there and we go, that was the best night I've ever had. I'll go a step further. If you show me your friends, I can probably tell you what your future is. Now, I have no special powers, but you show me who you talk to, who gives you advice, who you lean on, who you listen to, and who you spend the time with. Yeah, not rocket science. I can probably tell you the trajectory of your life, because let's be real for a second. Now, we've all been on trajectory down, right? We linked a few bad decisions together at the same time. We turn around, we say, how did I get here? You turn around, the people on the bus with you are making those similar decisions. Well, you're on the right bus. It's not their fault. You might be driving the bus. But the decisions you make and the people that you're with have an influence. There's no question. And as we've gone trajectory up and we saw ourselves, we've accomplished this, we've gotten that, we are here. Well, you're on the right bus too. And that to me is the critical element when you're making a decision. It is going to be who is going to be on the bus with you. So in the few minutes that I have remaining, and I mean just a few minutes, I just want to share a couple stories. So I went to Albany Law School. I grew up in Rotterdam, not too far from here. I was pretty intimidated to go. Nobody in the family had ever gone to law school. In fact, no one in the family had even gone to college. So I sort of did the college thing, and now I'm in law school, and I'm like, oh no. Now, I knew people who had gone to law school 2 years before me, the year before me, and of course, plenty of people in my year. And I'd hear the same story. Cutthroat, watch out. They're going to come after you. Be careful. I think I wore a turtleneck the first week, and it was August. It was hot. I was nervous. Looking around every corner, was someone going to take me out? But my experience with the people that I met at Albany Law School was anything but that. So I'll just share 2 stories. I could share lots of stories, but they will cut me out, be like the Oscars. They'll start playing music while I'm talking and kill my screen. So here it is. Day 1, law school. Back in the day, they lined you up sort of alphabetically. That was your crew. So I'm H, Paul Harding, and Jeff Francisco, F, close enough. We're in the same group, and we're sort of in there, and I haven't really communicated yet, but then we both went to the restroom together and kind of, talking, and we just kind of joking around a little bit. Of course, where are you from? He says, Amsterdam. Well, that's about 20 minutes close to Rotterdam. I said, oh, from Rotterdam. Wow, it's crazy. But where does the conversation get to, right? It gets to, next, where'd you go to school? And I asked him. He said, I went to Harvard. I said, oh, Harvard. Yeah, I'm thinking, I've heard of Harvard, Boston. Yeah. Crimson River. Yep, Harvard. And of course, he asked me, where did you go to school? And I went to SUNY Oswego. It was the right school for me. I wasn't shy about it, but let's not kid ourselves. There was a disparity between Harvard and Oswego. And I said, I went to Oswego. Without missing a beat, Jeff turned around and said, I went there last year. It's amazing. You guys are on this lake that goes on forever. Oh, we had so much fun. The bars were jumping. Wow, what a great place to go to school. And I thought to myself, that conversation could have went a different way, and it didn't. Now, I spoke to Jeff Francisco probably every month since then, including this past month. We are friends, and that relationship started at that moment in the restroom, I guess, of Albany Law School. Academically, people share, people support. And I'll fire off another quick story, and I promise, I know I talk fast, but I'll even talk faster to get this story out. But I was a okay student, and put myself in that, never really revealed my GPA publicly, but in that just about that B range, so maybe a little south of that. And so law school, you end up breaking up into study groups. It just kind of happens, if you're in law review, maybe you connect, but just generally that happens. So one day in the library, reading something that the professor had said, and I read it and I read it and I read it. It's not working. It's not clicking. But I see a group over there that included Mike Garcia. Wow. Even freshman year, we knew he was special. He was a smart guy. Turned out a valedictorian. Turned out he's on the Court of Appeals right now. And in between, he's done everything else. Google that guy. It is amazing. But I wander over there. Really don't know him so well. Guess, we knew each other a little bit, this face. And I said, guys, excuse me. I said, yeah, I'm just reading this and I'm not quite getting this. In fact, I don't really understand this. And Mike took my book. We had books back then. And he read it. He said, oh, I had the same problem. Yeah, when I read this, I was confused too. But then I thought, well, the framers, and he's referring to the legislature. I went to a building project. I had no idea what he was talking about. The framers meant, I think what they were going for is this. He said, sit down. He explained it to me. The light went on. I got it. But here's the deal. That conversation could have went a lot of ways. Mike never had confusion with that. He never had confusion with anything, but he wanted me to feel comfortable in asking a question and admitting that I could not understand the concept at that moment. Anne Frank famously said, no one has ever become poor by giving. And this girl never reached her adolescence, and she got it. She got that giving is really what leads to success. Giving is really the foundation of growth. And I will tell you that if you've met Alicia, if you've met the administration, if you've met these people and you say, are they real? Is this really who they are? They are. That is who they are. And that's who the school is. And if we believe that people, not places, make the difference in our careers, in our relationships, and truly whatever success that I've had, and I attribute it to Albany Law School and the way that I went in there scared as a rabbit and the way I came out confident. So to recap, the big decisions make themselves. You already know what you're going to do, right? You just got to find a way to get it out, verbalize it, confirm. If during the course of my conversation, you got a text message and Georgetown said, hey, you're off the waiting list, you're in. Georgetown's a great school. But if you want to be sharing the story that I'm sharing 25 years from now, maybe to Accepted Students Day, I'm going to suggest that you go with your gut and what you have decided and stay with Albany Law School. So as I part, I will just tell you that Albany Law School isn't like the other schools. You say, Paul, you're on the board. Of course you're going to say that. No. I've been around enough to know that the feeling and the support is truly special. Is there another law school somewhere else? Maybe. Is it the supermajority of law schools? Not even close. So thank you for listening. I wish you guys were all there, because I'm just looking at me, which is really uncomfortable. But thank you, and look forward to seeing you on campus.
Thank you so much, Attorney Harding. We know we will look forward to seeing you on campus, and we'll all be back in the fall. So mark your calendar there. But we appreciate your remarks. And if you can hang around, maybe there'll be some questions in the chat, but we certainly understand everybody's busy these days. So I want to introduce our third and final alumni that's going to formally address you right now. And that is Jared Halloran. So hello, Jared, welcome. Jared is a 2016 graduate. Currently, he's the Assistant Corporation Counsel at the City of Albany. Prior, he worked as counsel with the New York State Senate. He is currently a member of our National Alumni Association. And during his time at Albany Law, he was part of both the SBA and he was a student trustee to our Board of Trustees. So you have met a couple of our trustees just now, and Judge Reba and Attorney Harding. Jared was a student who sat on the Board of Trustees, and every year one is selected. So we're welcoming you back, Jared. We're happy to hear from you. So thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. And first off, I just want to commend the admissions staff and everyone at Albany Law for pulling together a virtual admissions Accepted Students Day. I know that's no easy feat coming from a background of admissions before I went to law school. And so kudos to you all. And kudos to all of these students sitting here virtually today. Congratulations. I can still remember the feeling of getting that acceptance letter in the mail and sighing that big sigh of relief, like, oh, this is real. But now you have the next big task of choosing which school to attend. And I know you all will choose the right one for you. But Albany Law School, I think, is really a gem that can't be beat. And I always use the analogy when I was at admissions that life is kind of like a puzzle. And as a student, you've chosen one of your pieces of your puzzle is to go on to law school. And now you have to figure out, does the puzzle piece fit your bigger puzzle altogether as you're putting it together in life? And we're here today to talk to you about the network. And coming through the doors at Albany Law School as a first-year student, your network starts off from day one with the faculty and staff who are there to support you and encourage you, lift you up off of the library ground when things get stressful, and make sure that you're nothing but a success. And the small nature of Albany Law School, I think, is also a huge benefit because it really is a community. There are all of these feelings about law school that it's cutthroat, as you've heard already, I'm sure maybe multiple times today, that people are out to get each other because it's competitive, and some individuals are seeking that high-powered New York City corporate firm job where only the few select will end up, or, you know, there's just all of these preconceived notions entering law school. And I think the community at Albany alleviates that from day one, because you're in the library, you're amongst your classmates, you're all struggling to figure out what is a contract. Does anyone really know what property is? Sure, I know my parents own a house, but there is so much more to it than that. And you're all lost in trying to swim through legal jargon. But the best part is that the community that walks the halls of Albany Law School is so supportive of one another. And you've all come from different walks of life, different backgrounds, you have different age ranges. But from my experience, I really felt like there was no barrier to anyone else. We all were willing to come up to one another, join in discussions, whether it is about the law, what we're learning in class, or what we ate last night for dinner in the cafeteria. You know, it's the feeling that you are part of something more than yourself. And from day one coming into law school, I felt that. And I joined many different clubs and organizations, joined the Student Bar Association from the first year, second semester, and we had the opportunity to really dig in and assist our student body in figuring out how did we want to move the school forward. And again, that network of reaching out to professors, to faculty, alumni, figuring out how do we make this the ultimate place to not only earn a legal education, but step out into the world prepared to take on any challenge. And so that was a super exciting opportunity for myself. And as I moved through into my second year, I found myself in Supreme Court chambers, clerking also for another Albany Law alum, our Honorable Kimberly O'Connor. And her clerk was also an Albany Law alum and someone who had chosen Albany Law because I was interested in government and knew that that was kind of the sector that I wanted to take my legal career. There was no better place, as I had heard from these admissions days and everything else, but then I quickly realized it in true life fashion as I got out there and got to practice and meet people. And that was an experience that I will carry with me. And then into my third year where I served on the Board of Trustees, again with alumni who have taken their legal degree and touched every single sector, whether it's healthcare, government, private practice, from big firms to small mom and pop firms, you know, whether it's out in California, back here on the East Coast, down south in Texas and Florida and all over the place. And you really see that this legal education can take you anywhere you want to go. And the nicest part is there's this network of individuals who are there to reach out to you and support you. So leaving law school, I entered the state Senate and I was able to secure a job as counsel with a state senator. And he had two other attorneys in his office who were also Albany Law alumni. I came in green as can be, scared to walk onto the floor of the Senate where everything is moving, in my opinion at that time, 100 miles an hour, and bills are flying, things are happening, and how do I keep up? How do I prove that I'm meant to be here? And these two Albany Law alum, you know, not only were they supportive because I was a graduate of Albany Law, but they were supportive because they saw a young attorney who needed to excel and grow. And they pushed me to try new things, to take risks. And that's been my experience ever since. Here in the Capital Region, you can find so many Albany Law alum who will sit down, have coffee with you, who will pick up the phone and have a 5-minute conversation over something that your aunt called you about and says, I need you to help me create a will, but you don't practice in that area. At any given time, someone's going to give you advice and point you in the direction. I mean, my brother lives down in Nashville, Tennessee. He's into music. And I remember 2 years out of law school, I called back to the alumni office and said, do we have any entertainment lawyers in Nashville? And my brother needs some help with a contract and we'd like to get him in touch. Immediately got back to me, helped shore that up. So in short, I just want you all to know that this place really is a true community, but it's not just from day one through third year. It is in perpetuity, as they say in the law, and it is something that will follow you until the end of your days. People want to see you succeed, and we all want to help each other grow and push each other. So I, from my experience, genuinely can say there truly is no better place. You're in a community that will fully support you. And I hope that you all will join us next fall and become members of this wonderful Albany Law School community. All the best to you. And again, hope to see you in the fall.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Attorney Keller, and we're happy to have you and welcome back. So now to sort of close out our day, we're just going to have sort of a round community conversation. I know in such a sort of a limited time span of formal presentations, it's so hard to hear from everyone, but we wanted to give you a sense of just how broad the support network is for you. So on top of all the people you've additionally met, the room is full of other, board members and faculty members and staff and alumni who are just here and happy to be with you. So we're going to welcome back Dean Willett, and she's going to help us navigate. I know to our guest, if you look at the list of participants, it's just the list of I look out. it's so thrilling to see so many people. I see other board members. I see Mayor Sheehan. Hello, Mayor Sheehan. Thank you for joining us. And so we're going to bring back our fearless leader, Dean Willett, and she'll help us kind of navigate this community conversation. So thanks, Dean Willett.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. I'm doing the phone thing again. So it's so nice to see you all. Thank you all for the folks who are just showing up, and thank you all to our admitted students who have stuck around for the day. We're going to end with a little bit of a conversation, and I hope that some of you can raise your Zoom hand if you want to ask questions, or ask questions in the chat. But I'm also just going to kind of go around the room a little bit, and I do see my law school classmate and the mayor of the city of Albany. Now, not all of you get to have the mayor of the city where your law school is going to be show up at your admitted students day, but we have Kathy Sheehan. Hey, Kathy.
How are you?
I'm well.
It's exciting to be here. I like it better when we're all together for Admitted Students Day, but it is kind of great that we're able to talk to so many of our admitted students over Zoom. So, you know, it is a benefit. And, you know, we were classmates, right, Alicia? And who would have thought all these years later that you would be dean of the law school and I would be the mayor of the capital of New York State? And I think you would agree that our time at Albany Law School really put us on a path and a trajectory that we didn't know at the time, but certainly gave us the tools and the skills that we needed to be successful and to be where we are today. And one of the things that I'm really kind of, you know, keying in on as I heard from Judge Reba and from Jared and from Paul was this idea of family. And, you know, when I first became mayor, I remember the first time I swore in a class of firefighters. And the fire chief got up and after I swore them in, and he talked about how these men and women had joined a family and that their families had joined a family. And that once you were part of the Albany firefighter family, they would always be there for you, no matter what. And I think that's what Albany Law School is. Once you become part of this family, you're always a part of that family. And, you know, through thick and thin, as you navigate your career, as you think about, I mean, I remember conversations with Dean Willett, you know, back when we were just Kathy and Alicia, about should I take this job? I don't know, you know, if this is what I want to do. And those conversations happened at many different points in our careers as we maintain those relationships long after law school. So Albany Law School has always been there for me. It's always felt like a family to me. It's always been a very special place. And to each and every one of you who've been accepted, congratulations. Congratulations on the hard work that it took for you to get to where you are. And I think that as you think about your decision, one of the things that I know, you may not know it yet, but what I know is that when you choose Albany Law School, you will be making a choice that will help you to fulfill whatever hopes and dreams you have for your future, because you will be surrounded by supportive people who will want to get you to where you want to go.
Thank you, Mayor. Oops. Too many devices. Thank you, Mayor. And I remember long chats and times down in the basement of the law school when we were on the law review together and in our neighborhood. And you know, Paul and Jared, so many people have talked about the lifelong friendships, and it is definitely true. And I'm glad to have you as a friend and glad to have you as a supporter of the law school. Looking to see, and I'm not seeing any questions, but maybe I can call on. So I told you in the beginning, we have some just absolutely wonderful staff who care about you, and some of them are behind the scenes very often, but they will care about you just as much as the people who are at the front desk. And I see Nilsa with us. Nilsa, you want to say hi and introduce yourself to the students?
Yes, hello everyone. I am in human resources. I have
been here for, I think, a total of 8+, because I was here for almost 6 years and I've been back for about 2.5. Wanted to log in and say hello to everyone, and welcome everyone to the law school. I just, hello. It's good to, wherever you are out there, great place to be. So I welcome you all. And we don't really get to see students as much these days. So I know we're all giving back for that. So I'm looking forward to that community feeling and aspect. I welcome it. So I'm counting down.
Right there with you, Nilsa.
Yeah.
Right there with you. I think we can't wait. Professor Brieger, I saw you. Want to say hello?
Hello. I didn't know I was going to be cold called. I guess. Hello, everybody. I'm Melissa Brieger, and I've been teaching at Albany Law School since 2002. It is really a terrific place. It's been almost 20 years for me to be here, and I echo what Nilsa said in the sense that I really miss seeing you all. I did not go to Albany Law School. I'm not sure why they still let me teach here, but I did not. But what I will say is law school, especially the first year, is pretty much the same anywhere you go. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. And so what I'm hearing and what I would just echo is make decisions about who you want to be in the trenches with. Who do you want to be studying the rule against perpetuities? And we'll tell you what that means later. Who do you want that to be? And your classmates will be your lifelong friends, and your faculty and your staff and your administration. We're all very much very collegial, very much like a family. I still talk to students I've had 20 years ago, and they're friends now. And so I know it's a hard decision to make, but I really do think this is an amazing and wonderful, wonderful, warm collegial law school, and in such a great location right in the Capitol that you have the mayor coming to see you. So any questions, please feel free to ask me or ask any of us. We're all happy to help you. Congratulations on getting in.
Thanks, Professor Brieger. I see that we have from the library, William Gaskell. You want to, we'll introduce yourself, and you're fairly new to the law school, but maybe you can talk about what you do and your experience.
Sure. I'm William Gaskell. I'm one of the reference librarians at the Schaefer Law Library. I've had the privilege of teaching some Master of Law students and some upperclassmen in advanced legal research. My focus is on scholarly communication, so I help the faculty in their research to write their papers, and then work to let other people in the world know all the great things that are happening with that. For incoming classes, the library will be a place for you to study, and the librarians will be with your lawyering professors working to help you research the law, read the law, figure out what to do next, and look forward to greeting you in a few weeks when you come back onto campus.
Thank you. Andrea Colby's with us. Andrea is a member of our board of trustees and has been really instrumental in helping us develop a wellness program at the law school. And Andrea, you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Congratulations on your acceptance. It's really great to see you all. And hi to all to Dean Willett and our whole staff and other trustees and folks, alumni. It's really wonderful to see you all, and I wish you all the very best. It would be wonderful to see you in the fall here. Actually, I'm not exactly there. I'm in central New Jersey, but what's wonderful is to be able to zoom in and meet everybody. This is just a wonderful school, and what really is terrific about it is how much all the administration and faculty and staff, how much they care about all the students and how much the students care about each other. It's an incredibly supportive atmosphere and environment, and really special. in terms of how law schools go. So I wish you the very best, and thank you, Dean Willett, for the opportunity to say that.
And thank you for being here. I do see a question in the chat about books, physical books. Some people use them and some people don't. Does anyone want to weigh in on that?
Dean, I can jump in and take that one.
Thanks,
I
Professor.
typically do it in my class. So traditionally, when we were in person, I do teach still how to use the books, just so you know where to go. Because some of the attorneys that you may be working with are still, used to looking at the books. Next year, you're all going to learn something called the Blue Book, which is basically where do we find the source being the case or a article, and whatever it might be, right? The source of the law, where do we find the source of the law? Well, they all originated in books. And so I used to teach how to find certain things in the library, at least in the first semester, just so you have a sense of how they started. After that, almost all of the research is online because that really is where things are going. But I do teach both. Last year was this past year was the first year that I did online only because certain students couldn't make it to our library. And really, unless you had a law library, you wouldn't be able to access certain sources. But I still think learning how to go to the books is important, or at least what they used to look like. What do all these numbers next to the cases mean? And it's really what it means is where do you find it in the physical book? So I will at least teach that. And the way I did it when they couldn't go to the library was that I took pictures of all the books and just showed you where things were and how they would look on the physical page, because I think it's important to know.
And in terms of case books in your classes, some people will see the big backpacks. I am someone that writes to learn and uses books, and so are many of our students. But there are some of the case books available to use on a reading device, and some of you may prefer that. So you'll get your book list and be able to figure that out. But research, I think it's done both ways, and it's good to be fluent in the old way and the new way. Ben Myers. So Ben is with us a lot as we've had town halls. Ben is in communication. Could you talk a little bit about communication at Albany Law School and how we do and what you've observed and your role in it?
Absolutely, happy to do that. The communications department is, we're pretty much responsible for all the print materials you're going to see, all the website. Anytime you see Albany Law School in a newspaper, on a radio show, we have our own podcast, which hopefully you've listened to all of the episodes and then listen to them again, because I need the analytics to be high enough so the dean will keep buying me equipment for the podcast. So anything that you see kind of in the public space, usually that comes through the communications department. And we're launching a new website. So the current website we have is, it's good. It's like a classic car. It's really a solid base, but we want to have a brand new car. So we're going to have a brand new website, and that's going to be launching in July. All your information will still be on there. All of it will still be available, but it's going to be really nice piece. We've been working on that for a while. So yeah, if you see us around campus, they usually photos, all the photos on campus we're taking in some way, shape, or form, and do a lot of video work too. So welcome to the team, and hopefully we'll see you in the fall.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Any questions? See, Persia Wilkins is with us. Persia, you want to talk a little to this group?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Persia. I'm one of the team members in the admissions office. I'm the director of multicultural initiatives and assistant director of admissions, and we're just thrilled to have you here. We spent a lot of time over the last year and sometimes years, as I see people in the room that I've met on their campuses when they were sophomores and they told me their dream, and here you are today. So congratulations. on behalf of the team in my office, and it's a very strong team, Allison Rosenblatt, she's on the call, Matt Taxman. Where's Katrina? Katrina is also here, Lori Stevens, and of course, Dean Mangione. I want to welcome you to Albany Law School and congratulations.
Thank you, Persia, and shout out to everyone in the office. It really is, admissions is sort of the welcome center for the law school in a very real way. And these folks in the law school will become lifelong friends, in the admissions office will become lifelong friends for many of you. And I know that many of you will really bond with these folks and maybe already have. Lori, you want to say hi real quick? Maybe talk about what happened at commencement. Is she there?
I got it. A lot of things happened at commencement. It was hot, but it was a really nice day. It was so nice to see all of our students graduate. We have student ambassadors, and 8 of our student ambassadors graduated this year. So it was extra special for me because I really get to know them on a personal level. So, and even last year's class, I hadn't seen them in a year. So it was just a really nice day.
Thanks, Lori. Lori in the middle of commencement texting me a picture with her arms around, families and students. And, we had a no hugging rule. I'm like, Lori, no hugging, which is a good problem to have. Katrina, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I guess like someone else said, this is what it's like to be cold called on in law school, but that's okay. I just want to say congratulations to you all. I work in the admissions office. I track and process applications. So I'm almost like the first point of when your application comes in and then goes to review, and then now you're here. So mainly I just want to say congratulations, and your hard work has paid off.
Very nice. Allison, you want to say hi real quick?
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited to see everyone here and all the participants. And I guess I just want to put a little plug that if there's anyone who has questions, we've heard so much today that there aren't those barriers of going up and speaking to each other. So there are some phenomenal alumni and faculty who are here. So if you really have a question, put it into the chat before we end today, because this is the opportunity. And this is kind of your first opportunity to feel what it feels like to break those barriers and to speak to someone in your law school experience. So thank you all so much for joining us. And we look forward to working with you as you transition into the school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Matt, you want to say hi?
Hi, thank you, Dean. I'll just share a little anecdote story, a moment I had with Dean Mangione, I think it was the day before last. And I was just saying to her, we're really so fortunate. We have such wonderful students here, but beyond that, truly, genuinely nice people. And it matters. And I'll just echo what Mayor Sheehan said, speaking of family. It's true. And I'm proud to be part of it. And I'm even prouder to welcome you all to it. So thank you very much.
And I also wanted to add something, Dean. Our village,
Okay.
Welcome to our village. I know our commencement speaker talked about it, but it is the relationships that will get you through and that you'll develop here. So welcome to our village.
Thank you. And that's really a nice way to sort of end what has been a long day on Zoom. I hope that all of our admitted students feel like you learned something about us and you stuck around for 3 hours. So that's a good sign. We are here and we will continue to be here for you. So if there is anything that you didn't get a chance to ask or you think about and you want to reach out to any one of us, please do. Don't hesitate. And we hope that you will have just a joyful summer as we come out of pandemic and as you ready yourself for what's going to be a big task ahead, take care of yourselves, get outside, exercise, be well, and come to us, excited. And we will be so excited to welcome you as Albany Law students. You'll have a new student orientation that will end with a swearing in ceremony where you'll really start your professional journeys, and we cannot wait to see where those journeys take you and to see the ups and downs, but mostly the ups and where you go. And we're just so very, very excited to meet you in person and to see you learn and grow and become friends and make new best friends and lifelong relationships. So thank you all very much for attending today, and thank you to all our guests. And with that, I'll give Dean Mangione the final word, and thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank everybody for attending and for joining us and participating. I will just say that final word is about, if you don't know where to go, there's virtually no door that you can knock on in Albany Law School, virtually or otherwise, where you aren't going to receive some sort of assistance. So even if it's not the person, they're going to get you to the person. But if you're ever concerned and you don't know where to start, come to the admissions office. We're definitely gonna be able to connect you. And that speaks for now. Over the summer, we're gonna stay in touch, but certainly in the fall when we're all there together, and we can't wait to welcome you. If you're on campus and you don't know who to ask or where to go, admissions is always your home. So come on in and we'll be sure to get you squared away. So thanks again. We'll be talking soon. And I hope everyone has a wonderful extended weekend coming up. Bye for now. You're all very welcome. I'm seeing the chat, all the great, all the appreciation. We appreciate you as well.